Good evening and welcome to the ASV's Lunar Eclipse live stream. Tonight we hope to bring you the Lunar Eclipse subject to Victorian weather, of course, and we know it's pretty cloudy and rainy out there in metropolitan Melbourne at the moment anyway. But thankfully we have some telescopes that aren't in Melbourne, and we have the team from the Astronomical Society of South Australia along to help us out tonight as well. But before we begin, I would like to say that in the spirit of reconciliation, the Astronomical Society of Victoria acknowledges the traditional custodians of country throughout Australia and their connections to the land, sea and community, and extend that respect to all of the Torres Strait Islander Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people today. Tonight's stream is proudly sponsored by Optic Central, who are sponsoring our current raffle, which is it's beginning to look a lot like a Christmas raffle, where you can win an 8-inch Dobsonian, and the raffle will be drawn on the 23rd of December. We'll do a live stream for that. Tickets or the ticket links available on our website, so asv.org.au. On the front page there should be a link for the raffle ticket there. If you're enjoying the stream tonight on Facebook, you can donate stars. On YouTube, you can donate stickers. All donations, no matter how large or small, are very welcome. And yes, Gerald, yay, Optic Central. I'd like to introduce our guests tonight. We'll start with the President of the Astronomical Society of South Australia, Kim. Welcome, Kim. We'll get him into the stream if he's working. He's frozen. I knew we were going to have some technical issues tonight. Always has to happen. So what we'll do is we'll drop Kim and we'll bring Rod in. How you going, Rod?
I'm good, thanks, Mark. Welcome to everyone.
Rod's from the Astronomical Society of South Australia as well. We've got Anne-Marie from the ASV, who's up in around near Malden. Lee, the Rainyard astronomer, who's in a car park in Doncaster somewhere, hoping to find some clear skies so that he can stream the moon for us. And we have Andy over in Langcoop out near Andy from way out west. What we're going to do to start with, because obviously it's a bit too early to look at the moon, we're going to get Rod to give us a presentation on lunar eclipse. So talking about tonight's lunar eclipse. So Rod, we'll pass the floor over to you and you can give us a bit of a presentation. And when the presentation's finished, hopefully the moon will be high enough for us to start streaming the eclipse for you, and we can follow the eclipse through. Now it's going to go for a while, so you can go away and come back and check on what's happening at any stage throughout the stream. Make sure you share it with all of your family and friends. And yes, Margie loves your moon clock, Andy. It glows in the dark, apparently. So, Rod, the floor is yours.
Thanks, Mark, and look, welcome everyone. The great thing about lunar eclipses is the whole of the night side of the Earth can see it at once, not like a solar eclipse. And you can go off and have a cup of tea and so forth and so on and go out and enjoy it, really have a chat and everything, unlike solars where everyone's in a big rush. So let me start here. And I acknowledge that most people from the ASV and ASSA will already know a lot about eclipses. So maybe this is for the younger people who want to know how they form and what they look like. So here we go. So if I can get my slide to... go to next. Here we go. In astronomy, an eclipse is defined as an alignment of celestial bodies such that the shadow of one of those bodies passes over the surface of another, and in so doing partially or totally obscures it. Now, this is a screenshot from Kim's last talk at the last ASSA meeting. It saved me putting all these local times on. That's the sequence of moon passage through the penumbra, the outer circle, and the umbra, the central part of the core of the Earth's shadow. As it moves through there, it gradually becomes more and more covered by the dark shadow, the darker of the two shadows, and you see a partial eclipse, and then it comes out the other side. And we're expecting the totality bit to start South Australian time at 8:47, a half an hour, of course, ahead of that in Victoria. Unfortunately, the elevations of the moon are quite low throughout this eclipse, but we just have to hope that you've got a clear horizon. So some definitions and numerical data here. The magnitude of an eclipse, a bit like the magnitude of a solar eclipse, is the fractions of the moon's diameter covered by the Earth's umbral radius. I won't bore you with this too much, but Then the penumbral magnitude is the fraction of the moon's diameter covered by the Earth's penumbral radius. And then the overall duration of this eclipse is nearly 6 hours. But because for most of it, part of it has happened before the moon has risen, in South Australia at least, it begins at 8:46 and finishes around 10. So it's about an hour and a half long. So here we go. Now I want to initially draw, it's a repeat more or less of the first slide, but I just wanted to talk to here a little bit about the relationship between lunar eclipses and solar eclipses. The nomenclature is a bit different. There's P1, U1, U2, mid, U3, U4, and P4 indicated up here. The bit we're most interested in is period of totality. But the analogous situation is that the point where the moon just touches the central shadow of the Earth is called U1 with a lunar eclipse. It's called the first contact for a solar eclipse. And when the moon totally enters the central part of the shadow is called second contact in the solar eclipse, U2 in lunar eclipses, and so forth for third and fourth contact. Some people might not remember. Solar eclipses do not have the equivalent of a total penumbral eclipse. That's one big difference between a lunar eclipse and a solar eclipse. It doesn't matter for the purposes of this, but I just wanted to know there are differences. So tonight, when you go outside later on or now, the other things to watch out for tonight, Uranus is only 1.5 degrees south of the moon, if you want to have a chance to see it, out of the full moon's glare. Now's the time to do it, when the moon goes total. And for the first time, we'll ever see stars close to a full moon. In this case, the full moon, of course, is covered by the shadow of the Earth, which means those stars come up and are visible. A bit like a solar eclipse. When there's an eclipse, you see the stars for the first time right around the sun. And tonight is during the period of the Taurid meteors. And so the suggestion is there might be some fireballs you see with the darkness associated with the lunar eclipse making the sky dark. You might see some tonight. And some people are even looking with telescopes on the surface of the moon because we've seen impacts, flares from impacts of meteorites on the surface of the moon. So watch out for them. Other things here, the position where we are at 9 o'clock tonight, the moon will have risen a bit. It'll be just above the Pleiades, the Seven Sisters, and to the west and above the Taurus main triangle. And Uranus, you see, there's just a 1.5 degrees or so away from the moon. Watch out for them when you go outside. So eclipses are part of a continuum between occultations and transits. Now, an occultation here is indicated here where the moon goes in front of a star. That's written, it's got dotted outline because it's behind the moon. It disappears behind the moon. It can be a planet as well as a star. At the other end of the spectrum of this sorts of eclipses are transits. This is a planet going across the surface of the sun. An inner planet can only be Mercury or Venus going across the surface of the sun, and that's called a solar transit. Now, in the middle of all that, you get total solar eclipses. This is a diagram of the moon in grey, being slightly bigger than the sun, completely covering the sun behind it and producing the beautiful corona and everything else that you associate with a magnificent solar eclipse. Now, you also have, when the moon is a little bit further away and the sun is a bit closer, the moon isn't quite big enough to cover the sun, so you get an annular eclipse where a bit of the sun's surface is exposed all around the silhouette of the moon. And we come now to what we're going to see tonight, and that's a total lunar eclipse. This is where we're looking at, this is viewed from the direction of the sun rather than Earth. The moon is on the other side of the Earth from the sun. It's much smaller than the Earth, of course, but it is one of these spectrum of things called eclipses. So eclipses run from occultations to transits, and these are photos I've taken of, this was the one in 2014 with Saturn just about to disappear behind the moon. This is a total lunar eclipse in Western Australia in 2018. This is the total solar eclipse I saw in the deserts of Libya in 2006. This was in Tennant Creek, near Tennant Creek in 2013, an annular eclipse. And this is the last of transits of Venus we'll see for a long time, the last one in 2012. So that's what we're looking at tonight. We're focusing on lunar eclipses tonight. So eclipses are all about shadows. Now, when you've got a point source of light, it's just a little tiny little point source, and you've got an object that illuminates. If you're behind that object, you're in what's called the umbra, the central part of the shadow, and you can't see the source at all when you're standing there or looking from this direction, and you can see all of the source from there. If you make the source a bit bigger, a finite source now, a bit bigger, but it's still smaller than the object, you generate another sort of shadow called the penumbra. And if you do these ray tracing exercises, if you trace the rays coming from the top and bottom of the sun, you see they cross here. If you're in here, you see some of the sun, but not all of it. In the umbra, of course, you don't see any of it, like in the top case. And on the other side, you also see a bit of the sun. Now, if I go further down here and make the source larger than the object, now we're in the situation where this is the sun, the Earth or the moon here. You get a third sort of shadow called the antumbra, where these rays from the top and bottom of the sun passing over the top and bottom of the moon or the Earth cross over. And this is where, if you're standing in here with a solar eclipse, you're seeing an annular eclipse. If you're in here, you're seeing a total eclipse. So shadows, eclipses are all about shadows. There are three sorts. So let's look at this. You've got the sun. This is a diagram of the orbit of the Earth around the sun. The umbra of the Earth is nearly 1.4 million kilometres long. And if you look then at the orbit of the moon, it's more or less to scale. The moon's orbit is more or less to scale with the Earth's shadow, but of course we know the sun's much further away, so that bit of the diagram's out of scale. So this is the orbit of the moon, average of nearly 400,000 kilometres long. Now, if I put the moon in now, the moon also has its own little umbra. That's 375 or 4,000 kilometres long. Now, if this is where we get into the diagram, what makes a solar eclipse and what makes a lunar eclipse. If the moon is around on the sun side of the Earth, the umbra just happens, because of the geometry of the Earth's orbit and the size of the Earth and the moon and the distance from the sun, the umbra of the moon just happens to be roughly the same as its orbit radius. So that's when you have the sun being cut out from the sunlight being cut out from the Earth. And if you're standing somewhere here, you see a total solar eclipse. When the moon, that eclipse is only visible over a very narrow path across the surface of the Earth because of that coincidence in the size of the Earth, moon and sun, such that the pointy bit of the umbra nearly gets to it or just gets to the surface of the Earth. Now, if you wait another 2 weeks after one of them occurs and you go to the other side of the sun, of the Earth, and I just, sometimes this little forward thing doesn't work. There we go. If the moon then 2 weeks later goes to the other side, you see it's sitting in the middle of the Earth's shadow, and you get a lunar eclipse. Now, this eclipse is visible over the entire night side of the Earth, unlike a solar eclipse, and that's what we're going to be looking at tonight. So let's just look at a bit more detail. The progress of a lunar eclipse, same thing, just a different angle. You get no eclipse if the moon is sitting out here in its orbit around the Earth. If it moves a little bit further anti-clockwise and goes into the penumbra, it's slightly decreased in some of the sun's side light is cut off, so it becomes slightly grey. If it's near the edge of the penumbra, you don't notice. It's very difficult to see any change. As it gets close to the umbra, you see the darkening becoming greater. But then when the moon moves, it starts to cross over into the umbra, you get the partial eclipse. So this is the edge of the moon's umbra gradually passing over the moon as it moves in its orbit around the Earth. And then, of course, when it gets fully inside the umbra, which will happen later tonight, you get this magnificent blood red or straw yellow or dark grey colour of a total solar eclipse, a majestic sight. Now, the maximum length of a total eclipse of the moon is about 1 hour and 46 minutes, unlike an eclipse of the sun, where the maximum length of a total solar eclipse is about 6.5 minutes. You've got to be very quick with a solar eclipse. You don't have to be so quick with a lunar eclipse. So why is the eclipse moon red-orange colour? Well, it's because of the Earth's atmosphere. Now, I've drawn the Earth here with day and night. The sun is over here, and rays of sunlight are coming in from the left-hand side. The atmosphere scatters the blue part of the sun spectrum more readily than it scatters the red. So the blue scatters, and that's why the sky is blue. But then the red passes through, and because it's passing through the atmosphere, it gets bent slightly. Red passes through, and it bends towards, some of it goes towards the moon. So the red part of the spectrum that's had the blue lost out of it from all around the edge of the Earth lands on the moon and makes it this lovely orange or brick red or whatever colour. The particular colour you get depends upon how many particles of dust and how many clouds there are in the atmosphere around the edge of the moon, the edge of the Earth as viewed from the moon. If there's lots of cloud and dust and everything, the moon is very dark. I've been to lunar eclipses where it was difficult to actually see where the eclipsed moon was in the sky. It was so dark. Others, it's been like a blood red, dried blood. It's been so, and that's when they're really beautiful. We don't know. It's hard to predict what it'll be like tonight because it depends upon the atmospheric conditions all the way around the rim of the Earth. But so that's always part of the surprise of a lunar eclipse. So let me talk a little bit about a real situation. This isn't just a diagram now. This is my real photo of the moon rising in Herring Gorge in Western Australia in 2018. Now, the horizon there was about here. You can see the trees there. The eastern horizon was about this line. So the full moon is rising above the eastern horizon. There was no eclipse then, so the shadow of the Earth was actually below the horizon. That's why it wasn't covering the moon. At this stage, the Earth's shadow is below the horizon. You've got the Earth's umbra, that central dark bit, and the outside bit around it. Now, the thing to remember here is that all the time, the Earth is rotating on its axis from west to east. We know once every 24 hours. Therefore, the moon and the Earth's shadow both move up from the horizon to the west all the time. Now, that's fine. But at the same time, the moon is orbiting around the Earth from west to east, same direction, but only once every 29 and a half days, roughly. So it's moving much more slowly than is the rotation of the Earth. So what happens is the moon moves slowly down and to the east through the Earth's shadow. And that's what causes this sequence of partial eclipse, penumbral, partial, and total eclipse. Now, if we look at this now without the horizon in the way, this is the same photo. Later in the evening, both the moon and the Earth's shadows had moved up, that is to the west, and the umbra had started to cover the moon. And that's a real photo there. I've just superimposed these dashed lines to show you the mechanics. And then a bit later, that shadow had moved further up. Maybe another 20 minutes or so later, it moved further up, getting close to totality. Now, I'll pause at this point and say, does anyone really believe now, having seen these shadows imprinted upon the moon, can anyone really believe that the Earth is flat? I just mentioned that in passing. And then, of course, a bit later, another quarter of an hour or so later, the moon has moved down fully into the Earth's umbra and you get a total eclipse. So that's how it all happens. Now, why don't you get an eclipse every month of new moon if it's a solar eclipse and full moon if it's a lunar eclipse? Well, it's because if this is the plane of the moon's orbit and this is the plane of the Earth's orbit around the sun, here's the sun, Earth going around, both going around anti-clockwise the way I've drawn it. The fact is that the moon's orbit is inclined to the Earth's orbit by about 5%, so it doesn't always cross over the line of sight to the sun every month. It's only when these nodes, the crossover point, line up with the position of the sun that you get either a solar or a lunar eclipse. So what happens is you get no eclipse most of the time when it's below the level of the plane of the Earth's orbit. A little bit later, you get a penumbral eclipse as it goes into I haven't drawn the penumbra and umbra of the Earth, but they're going behind the Earth away from the sun. A little bit closer, you get a partial eclipse as the moon moves into the umbra. Then you get a total eclipse, and then it moves to the other side. You get a partial eclipse, a penumbral eclipse, and then no eclipse. And that whole process tonight is going to take nearly 6 hours. So, but lunar eclipses won't last forever. We're in a not particularly unique period in the Earth's history with the lunar eclipses. I'll talk about the solar eclipses in a minute. But lunar eclipses won't last forever because when they put the mirrors, those little reflecting mirrors on the moon after the Apollo 11 landing that reflected radar signals and so forth back to Earth from the moon, they discovered that the moon is retreating from us at nearly 4 centimetres a year, about 1.5 inches. Every year it moves away from the Earth. And if you do the arithmetic, there's a little test for you if you want to try and prove me wrong. The moon is here at 384,000 kilometres away roughly. It has to get to a position where it's not big enough fully fall within the Earth's umbra, and you wouldn't get a total solar eclipse anymore, a lunar eclipse anymore. And that will take 16 billion years. At 4 centimeters a year, it's got to go back nearly 1 million kilometers to get out of the moon's Earth's umbra. And after that point, no total lunar eclipses will ever be possible. It's not so long a time when we miss solar eclipses, though. For the same reason, there'll be no further total solar eclipses after about 500,000 years. And that's because in that case, you're talking about the moon's umbra much shorter than that of the Earth, so it doesn't take as long for the moon to retreat away so that you don't get a total solar eclipse. So let's look again at tonight's eclipse. You get a total eclipse in here. Some people in South America see this eclipse occurs while the moon is setting. We're seeing the eclipse while it's rising. Now, in those some people are lucky enough, if they're in here or in here somewhere, they can see what's called a selenelian. And so for some lucky people here in Australia with a very flat horizon, standing in the right place at the right time, they can see a selenelian. And this is seeing both a totally eclipsed moon and the sun at the same time, either at sunrise in this case of people in North America, or at sunset in our case here in Australia tonight. So this occurs when you're observing a lunar eclipse at sunrise or sunset. Tonight, the moon rises at 7:43 South Australian side. I'm sorry for the Victorians, you just have to add half an hour to this. And at sunset, 7:51. So if you're standing on here, which we are, right at the point where the sun's just set and the moon's just rising, in theory, you can see both at once. But how is this possible when they're exactly 180 degrees apart? How can they be possibly visible at the same time? And this is what makes seeing a selenelian such a rare event. And the reason for this is that normally when you're standing in the middle of these two, either the sun or the moon or both of them are below the horizon when that one or other of them sets or rises. But because of refraction through the atmosphere, these are the real positions. The light coming from the moon and the sun is refracted by the atmosphere upwards, and so they can both appear on the horizon. The apparent position of the sun can be up to half a degree or so higher, and the moon can be up to half a degree higher than it really is, and that's what enables us to see them simultaneously, but only for about 2 to 10 minutes and only at sunrise and sunset. I don't know whether anyone will see it tonight, but it's quite a rare thing to see if you do get a chance. And of course, it's more you're more likely to see a selenelian if the sun's setting when the moon is high in the umbra, and you're less likely to see it when it's low in the umbra. So nearly at the end, upcoming lunar eclipses. The next one is a partial one in October 2023, but only 12 and a bit % of the moon is covered. The next, there's another partial on the 14th of March, but that's a longer one. And then the first total one will be, again, in 2025. That'll last for 1 hour and 22 minutes, about the same length as tonight. And then there's another one in 26, on the 3rd of March. That'll be about 1 hour long. And these are diagrammatically indicated here. That partial one in October is the moon just skims past the edge of the umbra of the moon. It's a full total eclipse in March 2025, where the moon goes right through the central part of the shallows. Ditto in September 7 and in March 3rd. So finally, don't forget, there's a total solar eclipse on the 20th of April next year. This is the path of the total solar eclipse. It just clips the western edge of Australia, goes across East Timor and then the neck of Irian Jaya. It's all good weather prospects there. The blue, it means cloudless skies. So Australia and the Timor Sea are the best places to see this eclipse. But unfortunately, there's not much landfall. You have to go to Exmouth, and it only just clips the edge of Exmouth. Exmouth is just this little peninsula right at the westernmost part of Western Australia. But you can fly in there. You don't even have to leave Learmonth Airport. You could stay in the airport, in your plane, look out the window, and you'd be in the middle of a total solar eclipse. This is the southern boundary. This is the northern boundary. And this is the centre line. It'll only last for maximum about 1 minute and 3 seconds. But the average length of a solar eclipse is only about 2 minutes. And they're so spectacular, they're worth going to the ends of the earth to see them, as my wife and I have done. We've seen 11 of them now. So there you go. Don't forget, 20th of April next year. And That's the end of the talk, Mark.
That brings all of us back in. That's the end of the professional part of the talk now. This is when
Can I hide my presentation now, Mark, and have a look at
you can hide your presentation now. Now I'll introduce Kim again from the Astronomical Society of South Australia. Kim is the president of ASSA. We'll let Kim say a few words while we enjoy the glorious view of Lee's car park location on the side there.
You could have taken the rainbow that was there earlier.
Oh, we had a rainbow. Lee had a rainbow earlier, and also I want a shout out to Al Stewart, who's watching from Summer Bay apparently. So, Kim, I'll let you just do a little bit of a talk about ASSA's involvement as well.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. And sorry I couldn't make the start. I had some internet issues out here, and we're at a remote site in the Adelaide Hills at the moment, so we're running off 4G and running off battery power. There's no power on site. Anyhow, the Astronomical Society of South Australia is part of this tonight. We have a few members up here. I think I've got about 4 at the moment. And we have some telescopes set up here in the Adelaide Hills, and we're looking towards the northeast. And we've got a reasonably clear horizon and also a reasonably clear night. There's not a lot of clouds up here at the moment. The horizon's quite clear for us. Although we have some bushfire smoke to the right of us, just to the south of us rather. And hopefully that's it's just a burn off, and hopefully it doesn't drift our way. Anyhow, we've got a few telescopes here. Ian Somerville. So Ian Somerville has got his 14-inch manual dob here, so he'll just be doing some visual. I've got a little 80mm refractor which is hooked up to a camera, and so I'll be live streaming images of the moon when it gets dark or when it rises. I think moonrise isn't for another 15 minutes at least here. And Scott Gregory is also here. He's got a refractor as well, hooked up to a camera. Yeah.
Beautiful. So we've got a couple more scopes to jump in if we can't get anything locally. Andy, have you got a view of the moon for us at all yet? Is it high enough yet? Or I think Andy's frozen as well. Oh, this is lovely technology. No,
I'm back.
Are you back? Do
we
have a view of the moon from yours?
Can you see me?
Yet? We can see you. We can't see your view yet.
No, it's not quite yet.
Not quite yet. We're going to be waiting a little bit longer. So what do we do? We twiddle our thumbs.
It's horizon.
We haven't got much else to do, really. I mean, we can take some questions. Let's see if anyone's got any questions about the eclipse.
Yeah.
We thought maybe the talk might have dragged it out long enough that we would start to see the moon rise, but we got a little bit excited, and here we go. Any chance now, due to weather change here in Melbourne, of seeing anything with the naked eye? If so, what time and what direction, please? Near St Kilda Hill. What's it looking like out there, Lee? You're our resident Melbourne person at the moment on the stream. What's the weather looking like towards the city? You just get out of the car and the van and have a look out at the car. You're on mute. You're on mute, Lee.
How about I unmute?
Yeah.
There's a band of rain that looks like it's going to come over again, but the sunset itself looks absolutely gorgeous on the other side of it, and clear skies for miles.
So it looks like we're going to get some clear then, which is great.
I think we did see that a couple of weather apps noted 9 p.m. For complete clearing, but and in fact, you probably can't see, viewers probably can't see the my screen at the moment, but that's looking pretty much towards where the moon will rise at the moment, but around another 20 kilometres around to the north, it's clear, and that's pushing through that way as well. So I expect even if I don't get it at moonrise, it will probably be about 20 minutes or half an hour afterwards.
Okay, there we go.
Before it starts raining again.
We've got another question. Where have we got? Just jumping through. Here we go. Michael, what is the time? What is the peak of it in Victoria. I think Victoria, the peak of it was just after 10 p.m. Would that convert right, Rod? About sort of 10 past 10-ish in Melbourne? You're on mute, Rod.
That's the most commonly expressed words on Zoom and StreamYard. You're on mute.
You're not on mute anymore. Go for it.
No. Yeah, look, that's about right. It's an hour and a quarter, so there's no rush. It's not as though there's a peak, really. I mean, it's slightly brighter right in the centre of the umbra, but it's pretty spectacular at both ends as well. So it's any time. I think for us, it starts at 8:47, doesn't it, Kim, and goes through to about a bit after 10. So the middle must be around 10:15 or something for you guys, maybe.
The middle's at 9:29 here in Adelaide.
So that would make it about
10 o'clock.
just on 10 o'clock.
Would make it 10 p.m.
Yeah, just 10.
Yeah.
But just to answer that earlier question, Mark, about which direction. I mean, it's in the east, just north of east, that you look for the moon to rise. But it will show itself beforehand with the sky brightening around it, probably.
So there we go. There's a question. Any idea of how many degrees above the horizon we can expect the moon to be when it's in full eclipse? So he's in Adelaide.
That's going to be about 12 or 15 degrees.
12 or 15 degrees. There you go, David.
Can you share that, Mark?
Hang on. Here we go. Let's share that. So for everyone in Victoria, add half an hour.
So what was the question? It was about, these are Adelaide times here, so it shows you when totality begins.
So when it's at its greatest, it was. So if it's 9:29, that makes it 9:59 in Melbourne for its greatest. So you're going to get plenty of it.
In terms of altitude in Adelaide, we're talking 17 degrees. It is quite low, but it's, as one of my colleagues here says, 10 degrees sounds awfully low, but it's 20 moon diameters. So
it's fairly high when you think about it that way.
But certainly you don't want too many trees in the way.
So Debbie's saying, I'm in Wodonga. What's my chances of seeing this? Well, depends on how cloudy your skies are. If they're clear or clearing, then you'll definitely see it this evening. That's for sure. Where is the best place to view the eclipse in Melbourne? Depends where you are. If you're sort of Mornington Peninsula way, I would say down the peninsula along the beach, sort of looking towards that sort of east-northeast direction. Otherwise, Lee, you're somewhere fairly high, aren't you? So usually somewhere high to get above the buildings at the moment.
I'm in Doncaster, as mentioned, in a car park. It's actually the Manningham Council and Library offices. I did actually call them earlier today. I've got a contact there, and they said, not a problem. So I just wanted to make sure it wasn't going to be an issue. But there's quite a few, it is a very open area to the viewing, sort of where we need to be. I just found a bit of a problem with a fair few places I scouted out that there's nothing but trees and big buildings.
That is the problem.
Kate actually mentioned another one to me, which was a bit further out. So again, depending on where you are, it was out Sassafras way. I'm just trying to find
She also chimed in the comments, and I think she said Point Cook.
Our son's house.
Yeah.
because it's flat out there.
There you go. What have we got? There's a question someone might be able to answer. What are the people on the space station seeing? Who wants to have a go at that one? Kim? I wouldn't know what they're seeing. Probably not what we're seeing, that's for sure.
Well, if they're on our side of the planet, on our hemisphere, if they can see the moon, then they'll see the same thing. They'll see the eclipse, right? Isn't that right, Rob?
Yep, absolutely. If they're on, they just have to wait another 45 minutes or so if they're on the other side of the Earth till they come around to the moon side, provided they're not in a polar orbit, in which case they'd see it all the time. But just getting back to how high would it be in Victoria, I think Victoria being, if it's 17 degrees elevation above the horizon in Adelaide, you're half an hour ahead, and the Earth rotates around 7 or 8 degrees in a half an hour, so it should be 25 degrees up in Victoria at midpoint.
A bit higher for us. Highways, we are going to show the eclipse. We're just waiting for it to rise high enough for our guys to get their scopes on it, and then it'll start. All right, so we have a question for you, Rod. You're going to get a lot of questions for the moment. What does penumbral mean?
Just harking back to the first bit of the talk, a finite source of light like the sun and a finite size object that it's illuminating like the earth and the moon has three sorts of shadows, and the central part of the shadow is where you can't see, you're hidden, completely shadowing the source of light. But if you move slightly out of that central part of the shadow, you can see part of the sun. So the penumbra is the situation where a person on the moon would be seeing part of the sun. And they'd see part of it blocked, like we do in a partial solar eclipse when we're standing on Earth looking past the moon towards the sun, but they will see part of it. So penumbral means that part of the shadow cast by the Earth where the sun is not completely hidden. So it gets some light.
There we go.
I hope that answers the question.
I hope so. Highways is on a break for 20 minutes and wants to see it, but the clouds are covering it. They're covering it for us at the moment as well, but it won't be much longer and we'll be able to see it. So you might have to watch this back on replay to see it. So, here we go. Here's a question. How does the supermoon happen?
This is a particular bugbear of mine, folks, because the press loves to talk about giant moons and supermoons and everything. The maximum variation in the size of the moon, depending upon its orbit around the Earth, is 14%. So there's only a 7% variation in the size from its smallest to the average to the biggest. So a supermoon is one of those cases where the moon appears the biggest in the sky, and it does look bigger if you're really careful. You've got something to measure it by. It does look a bit bigger. It's brighter. It's about 25% brighter because it's closer. So it is a supermoon in a sense that it's brighter and it's slightly bigger, but it's never more than 7% bigger than average. But it can be 10 or 15% brighter than average. So they use a license a bit with calling it super, but it is a moon that's particularly spectacular, especially if you see it at moonrise when it appears bigger in relation to the surrounding landscape.
See if we've got any other questions while we wait for some coverage to start.
Perhaps I can fill in and say, just as a further to that, Mark, I forgot the bit of the question, how does it happen? It happens because the moon has got an elliptical orbit around the Earth, and sometimes it's closer than other times. And it varies significantly in its distance from the Earth. So when it's closest, it seems bigger. And when it's further away in its orbit, at apogee, as it's called, then it's smaller. But again, it's only a total variation of 14% difference in size between a mini moon. They never talk about a mini moon, between a mini moon and a supermoon.
Now, there is another question. Anthony Hedge has a question. Are there areas on Earth which will experience the eclipse for longer periods than others?
Look, I don't know. I don't want to answer all the questions, but I don't think that the eclipse lasts as long as it does because the shadow of the Earth at the point of the position of the moon revolving around the Earth has a particular size. It actually doesn't matter where you are on the Earth because we're independent. We are watching something happening elsewhere, and that moon takes a certain amount of time to pass through the shadow, regardless of where you are on Earth. So there are no places where it will be longer than others.
So it's going to be the same length no matter where you are.
Yeah, the only way you can't do what they did with that famous Concorde flight back in the 1970s, where they lengthened a solar eclipse, I think, to 70 minutes, 10 times its normal length by chasing the shadow. They were traveling almost at the same speed as the shadow of the moon across the Earth and able to lengthen the solar eclipse by a factor of 10. But you can't do this here because it's all happening away from where you're standing. You're either in the night side and can see it, or you're not in the night side of the Earth and can't.
There we go. Here we go. How do we get data for the next eclipse?
You search for lunar eclipse on the internet. You say lunar
Yeah,
eclipse
that's pretty much it.
2023 or something, and it'll come up with a million options.
I think what they're talking about is how do we know when the next one's going to be?
Oh, right.
Yep.
Well, you need to be a mathematician familiar with Bessel functions and things of that sort to be able to go through the fundamental calculation from first principles. That's a very tricky calculation, but people that know their business can do that very easily now, and you can predict eclipses to thousands of years into the future and thousands of years into the past to an accuracy of about 1 second and about 200 meters on the surface of the Earth in the case of a solar eclipse. So we know the celestial mechanics is pretty well nailed down, and what you're left with uncertainties is the changes in the tidal effects of the moon, whether the Earth is closer to the sun at that point, or whether Jupiter is at opposition or not, that have these minute effects on the celestial mechanics. But we pretty much nailed it all. But you need to have access to programs that have all those functions that go through the appropriate Newtonian mechanics.
So we've got a lot of questions coming. So hopefully this tides us over until we can get some coverage of the eclipse. We shouldn't be too much longer. We got Drew wants to know: does the elliptical orbit also impact the tides?
Someone else want to answer that? I don't want to dominate.
I think you're our resident moon expert at the moment. So,
sorry, the question specifically was, can you just flash it up for me again, Mark?
Yes, easy. There we go.
Oh, impact the tide. Yes, the answer is yes, because the closer the moon is to the Earth in its orbit, the greater its gravitational influence, or should I say, in terms of general relativity, the more it warps time-space, and so the bigger the impact on the tides. In fact, you get super tides and king tides associated with times in the moon's orbit and in relation to where the sun is at the same time. You get combinations of additive effects that make king tides, and sometimes those effects can negate each other, and you get very low tides or none. So yes, the answer is most certainly yes.
So just quickly, Rod, Alf Stewart loves your knowledge and passion.
Thanks, Alf. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's a pleasure.
Where is this? There's a question here for our astrophotographers, actually. Best tips on capturing the eclipse on my DSLR. So who's they've all disappeared. They've done a runner. You're going to look at their gear and get ready, I'd say. So we'll wait for them to come back.
I'm still here.
Oh, you're still there? Oh, there you go. You can answer this one.
Oh,
best tips on capturing with digital SLR.
Well, what I've got on the screen at the moment, if you share that, is, and unfortunately I can't grab this other camera to show, but I've got my mount there with everything tracking and so on, and the DSLR is actually attached to a T-bar across my other scope. The preference for doing that is just to be able to get a lot of it in frame. And we typically, when we're doing any imaging of planets or lunar, we do what's known as lucky imaging. So you actually take a video, and you get some software to sort through. Let's say you might take 1,000 images, and the software will sort through the best images, give you the best results, and then you can work with those. But if you just want to do it, the moon is so bright normally, and even during the eclipse, that you should be able to get some reasonably decent. If you probably need about a 300 mil at least tele lens, and a decent camera as well.
So we've got some data, some info that the ever lovely Neil Creek has popped up for us for digital SLRs. Use the longest focal length you have, put it on a tripod, use a fast shutter speed, something like 1/200th of a second, and adjust the aperture and ISO to get it exposed. In the maximum eclipse, you'll need a longer exposure, and the movement of the moon may blur the results. Oh, here we go. And he's added some more. Neil just should have been on the stream with us. I should have nagged him more. At max eclipse, you'll probably want a 1 to 10 second exposure. There we go. Hopefully,
which even at 1/10 second, if you're on just a regular tripod without tracking, it'll still get next to pretty decent quality.
Yeah. So we have another question for Rod, and then Andy, I'm hoping you've got the moon ready to look at. That's Andy out west. So Rod, one more for you. When there is a lunar eclipse on one side of the Earth, is there a solar one happening simultaneously?
No, there isn't, but because one occurs at nighttime and one occurs during the daytime. The solar eclipses occur in the daytime by definition because you can't see it if the sun is being covered. So if the sun's not up, you can't see it being covered. So, but having said that, they often occur in triplets or pairs. So we had that partial eclipse elsewhere on the Earth 2 weeks ago. That was when the moon was around 2 weeks, halfway around its orbit back towards the sun 2 weeks ago. It's now gone around, and now, lo and behold, we get a lunar eclipse. Sometimes we get another solar, or we get a solar eclipse. But they'll always be 2 weeks apart, because one occurs at full moon and one occurs at new moon, and they're 2 weeks apart in the orbit of the moon around the Earth. So, but not always do you get paired, but a lot of the time you will have a partial eclipse and a lunar eclipse 2 weeks apart, as we just had.
Beautiful explanation. What have we got? I think there was another question there. How often do blue moons happen? Once in a blue moon.
Yeah, blue moons are a tricky thing. And again, the media just jumps on these things. There's sort of tradition to talk about blue moons. Yeah, that once in a blue moon is where the expression comes from. But blue moons are not that uncommon, like super moons. They're not that uncommon. Blue moons are when I forget the exact thing. I think it's when you get 2 full moons in 1 month or something.
Yes,
they're not
correct.
They're not that uncommon.
Which happens fairly often. But I believe. And this could be one of those wives' tales, but the reason it was called a blue moon was farmers would write in their ledger in blue to indicate the presence of the second moon.
The second full moon
to
in
know
the month.
when they were planting their crops. Hence, it was called a blue moon.
Yeah.
So we have a question
whether that's true or not. I'm going with it.
That's what I've heard as well, but yeah. We have a question. There's a 6-year-old girl who would like to know, can the blood moon be pink? I think you mentioned this a bit earlier in the talk.
Yes, the answer is to your daughter, Ashley, yes, they can be. They can range, as I said, from almost black if there's a lot of dust and crap in the atmosphere around the Earth, so no light gets through the moon at all through the atmosphere, to very, very dark, deep blood red. And pink is one of the colours. Yellow, also orange, brown moons are also very common. It's all of those reddish, yellowish colours. But yes, they can be very, very different. And that's, as I said before, one of the exciting things about lunar eclipses. You never quite know what they're going to look like on that particular case, and so it's exciting to wait for see what happens.
All right, so we have some. Whoops. I've removed Andy. So Andy's got some clearing skies. The other Andy. There's too many Andys on this stream. Oh, there it is. It's coming up through the clouds. So, through the trees. So Andy out west has got clear sky, but there's a tree in the way. So, and you can see the color of that moon through the trees.
Yeah, it's not much.
How long before you have some clear view?
Be through 5 minutes, maybe.
5 minutes?
Yeah, about 5 minutes. I've got half a finger. That's
okay.
7 minutes.
Kate says you've got to trim the trees, Andy. Chop the tree down. So a little bit longer to go, guys. So we will get some stream happening. And we keep losing Kim. He keeps
Just want
dropping
to
off.
prepare earlier.
So what have we got? Where we see? Yeah, Neil, we have mentioned to people about binoculars, but it's cloudy everywhere, except for where Andy is. So if you're living out in Langcoop, you'll get it clear.
I've got
So-
a false moon on the screen now. I was fairly sure for timing that by the time the moon came up, the street
Yeah,
light
false
would come
moon,
on.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, so I
think
think
Barry
we've probably
would
got
be
about
pleased,
5
they're
minutes
actually
left to
good
go.
colour.
Kim's back. How's it looking where you are, Kim?
Yeah, hi. We can no, we can see it now, and it's come up, and it's in eclipsed, and I've got a really nice view of it. It's sitting here, but my scope won't go to it just yet. Ian somebody was taking some images of it.
Oh man, if it's not clouds,
but I'm looking
and
at
if
it,
it's
and
not
it's
trees,
lovely,
it's-
moon, and obviously there's a bit of cloud around, but it's you can see it's in partial eclipse phase.
yeah,
But
I
I'm
love
just
it.
going to
So
get Ian to share some images at the moment.
that'd be great if we could do
I'm
that.
trying to
Yeah,
I'm trying to align my scope to the moon, and it won't go to the moon because the moon is too low.
clouds in some places, trees in other places, and scope's not playing ball. We will get a view for say Tegan's just saying, does anyone have a clear view? We've got people with a clear view. We've just got either a tree in the way or some technology that's playing up. But it is coming, so stick with us. And if it's cloudy outside and you know someone who wants to see it, tag them, because we will get some good coverage as the stream unfolds. That's for sure.
The other thing, the
I'm turning my
annoying,
scope to go to the moon now, so it's a bay now. I just have to
the
turn
annoying
the.
thing I just noticed is Katie is at home or close to home and said she can see it from Ringwood East Football Club, which is one of the locations I was going to go to.
Yeah.
I didn't feel it was safe there, to be honest. So go home, Katie.
I wouldn't feel safe in Ringwood Cricket Club either. Sorry, Ringwood,
We live
nothing
there,
against
but,
you.
know.
So we have someone. Whoops. So we have someone asking what direction it's located. So it's sort of in that sort of east northeast direction, rising at the moment. We will show you the moon eventually. We're just waiting for some technology to play ball with us, and also for some clouds to shift in other areas and in another spot for the trees to get out of the way. But we will have an eclipse for you.
Mark, just to go back to the question about what can I do on my DLSR, I've just looked up my experience from that photos I took from Herring Creek in Western Australia. I showed in the presentation. The full moon was taken. I was using a Canon 6D Mark II with a 300mm telephoto on it, and it was at ISO 800 and f11, and the full moon image was 1/640th of a second, the one with the partially obscured by the trees just as it was rising, and then the remainder, and as correctly indicated, I forget who it was that said, you have to increase the exposure as the moon gets progressively covered. But the ones of the partial phase were about a half a second, ranging up to 4 seconds in totality. So F11, ISO 800, and between about a half a second and 4 seconds for the eclipsed phases.
There we go. Hypothetically, how big can moons be? Oliver, I think you might need to clarify that one for us a bit in what you mean by how big can moons be. Is in moons that orbit other planets, or how big can the moon look for us on Earth? Give us a bit of a clarification on that, and we can try and answer it for you. And Kim's back again. There's that technology. How'd we go, Kim?
I've got it.
Yes. Do you want to share your screen?
Bang, there it is.
All right, here we go. You don't want to see our ugly mugs anymore. We'll put that up on there so you can see. It is coming into eclipse, isn't it? Look at that.
The colours, no, the colours are completely off because it is showing. I'm looking at it and it's yellow. I'm just going to adjust the colour balance here. It's quite off at the moment.
Do you want to explain to the viewers what equipment you're using to get this image? Once you've got your colour balances all sorted.
Let's get my colour. Oh, here we go. I think it's in here. Colour. Yeah, it's too much red, isn't it? I'll just bring the red back a bit. There you go. And I don't know, probably not enough blue, but I can only play around with red. don't want a green moon, do we?
Oh, green could look good.
It's a little bit. I'll see if I can match it looking out the window. It's a bit, yeah, it's in the atmosphere, quite a thick part of the atmosphere. It's probably actually close to that. I'll just stop that and I'll just increase exposure a bit. Oh, actually, I need to increase the gain. Here we go. All right, it's actually about like that at the moment as it's working its way through the atmosphere. But you can see it's an eclipse there, and hopefully you're seeing that.
Absolutely see the.
All right,
it's coming through nicely, isn't it?
Go full screen on that, and see if I can get in there a bit more. Yeah, so that's close to what I'm seeing at the moment out the window. It's probably only a few degrees, well, a few degrees above the horizon. Yeah, so this is an 80mm refractor I'm using, and it's capturing these images through a camera. Dedicated astro camera, and that's just connected by USB 3 to this laptop. I have had internet problems all night tonight. You probably gathered that. I keep dropping out. Hopefully I'm still there.
You are still here at the moment. So we do have a couple more questions. So will the whole moon disappear?
I think Rod answered that earlier. We don't know how dark.
We've had some viewers jump on midstream. So
yeah, so I think just jumping on that answer then, or that question, we never really know what colour the eclipse will take. And like Rod, I've seen one where it had gone just completely dark. You literally could not see it in the night sky. Most are red, orange in colour. Some are deep red, some are more yellow, orange. So we don't know. I mean, at the moment, you can see the lower part here, which is an eclipse, is dark, but we'll adjust the exposure and see what we get. But right now, I cannot see that part of the moon, but that's in eclipse, just visually looking out the window.
Yeah.
So we need to wait and see.
That's that Pac-Man effect that Rod was talking about earlier.
Back to the question about how big does the moon get. While that questioner is thinking about it, I just pulled out the numbers here. The moon's angular size.
He has clarified it.
Right.
Other orbits, so other moons in other orbits as well. So I think that's a pretty deep question, really, when you think about it.
Yeah.
Io, Ganymede, Titan.
They're all pretty big.
There's a talk in the archives of ASSA, a YouTube site, about a talk I gave a couple of years ago on eclipses on other planets in the solar system, and there are other total solar eclipses that occur, but none of them are as spectacular as us because we're the closest planet to the sun that has a reasonable sized moon. All the other planets, although they have eclipses, are much further from the sun, so the sun itself and the moon and its moon is smaller than is our moon in relation to where we are to the sun. So they have other eclipses. They have annual eclipses, and they have partial eclipses and total eclipses and everything. And you can just see that by watching the cloud tops of Jupiter when one of the moons goes in front of it and casts its shadow on the top of the clouds, or when around the other side of Jupiter or Saturn, it disappears behind the shadow of Jupiter, and that would be an eclipse of that moon when it passed around behind the planet into the shadow of the planet. So yeah, all of the combinations that we see here get reproduced elsewhere, and some of those moons are so close. Some of the big moons on Jupiter, for example, are so much bigger than the apparent size of the sun from that distance away that it's nothing. It's just more like an occultation than an eclipse.
So we've got a very interesting question. Big Pine Sailing, where are you located? I'm looking at it out my window, and it's coming from the top down.
The orientation of the camera versus...
Yes, but if I add Andy's to the stream, Andy's is coming over the trees. So I'm going to ask Big Pine Sailing, where are you located?
Rod, just to follow up to what you were saying with the other moons, there would also be combinations of solar and lunar eclipses with the likes of the moons around Jupiter and such, wouldn't there? So
yes,
where one moon is in a solar eclipse, but another is a lunar eclipse of the moon behind it due
Yes.
to precession.
Yep. In fact, there's some really rare events where I've seen photos on the internet of different satellites of Jupiter actually eclipsing each other. So the shadow of Io passes across the shadow of Europa or something. But they're very rare that you get that sort of alignment. So there's all sorts of weird and wonderful things happening. You're absolutely right.
So I thought I knew why Big Pine Sailing said it was the other way around, and this is why. This is where he's viewing from.
Florida.
Florida. Do we want to explain that one, Rod?
Yeah, if you go into the northern hemisphere, everything looks different in the sky. Not only the fact that the stars are mostly different, but that the moon, the cusps on the moon, crescent moon, are just so totally strange. We see the cusps, pointing downwards from the southern hemisphere, or at least I do in Adelaide when it's. But in the northern hemisphere, you're just looking at it from a different angle, and it totally throws you for a while till you get used to it. So yes.
That explains that one, why it's different for him compared to us.
Yeah.
Yep. So this is a view of from Andy's equipment. Andy, do you want to explain a bit about your gear and where you are at the moment?
G'day, everyone. A little tiny cloud going in. Oh, no, that's a little branch. I'm in Lane Coop, which is about 6 kilometres from the SA border out west. And I'm using I can just quickly look at that. That's what I've got running at the moment. That's a live view of my gear. I think I'll just move it a bit. Yeah, it's a 6-inch scope with a reflector with an old Canon DSLR hooked to it. And at the moment, it's still just clearing. It's going to go straight into a branch. But that's all right. That'll keep going. But
we
yeah,
might run back to Kim's. We'll jump back to Kim's. Because even though he's disappeared, his stream is still going strong. And you can see from when we first started looking at Kim's view not that long ago, it's starting to push further and further into. It's no longer really looking. It's looking like more like Pac-Man with his jaws wide open now.
Can you see the moon rabbit?
Yes, I can. I can see the moon rabbit. Somebody asked earlier where Apollo 11 landed.
Oh, yeah. I can show that, but it's probably going to crash my computer again. Apollo 11 landed about, I got it right. I think it's about, can you see my mouse pointer?
Yeah, we can, yes.
I think it was about there. And I do have a map of it, but I just won't bring it up at the moment.
We don't want to crash your computer. We're enjoying the eclipse occurring live. So we have another question. So it's really beautiful, though. Why does the lunar eclipse happen more than the solar eclipse?
Oh, that's relatively easy to answer. Although it's at some level it's a tricky question. There are actually more lunar eclipses than there are solar eclipses largely because the shadow of the Earth is much wider than the moon's shadow. Because the Earth is 4 times the diameter of the moon. So at the distance between the Earth and the moon's got much more chance of passing through the shadow of the Earth because the shadow of the Earth is bigger diameter than the corresponding case on the other side where the shadow of the moon is converging more and its path across the surface is much narrower.
So what do we got? I'm just going to say, just looking through the comments, thick clouds of the monsoon season make us in Malaysia almost unable to see the eclipse. Thanks for sharing. You're welcome, Isil. You're very welcome. The reason why we got this stream set up is we know what it's like in Melbourne and other parts of the world, and it was always going to have a chance of being cloudy somewhere. So we thought we would get a team together, and I thank the Astronomical Society of South Australia for working with us on this and making this happen, because Rod's jumped on and he's answering some questions, answering all your questions brilliantly. Kim's given us the first view of the eclipse live, and it's hopefully Andy can jump back in. Andy's part of the ASV, but hopefully he can jump back in with his view once it continues climbing over the trees. Lee's probably just not going to see it, I dare say. So, Daryl, did you all see the little green men run across the moon? Yeah, I did before. I saw a few of them scurrying across. Once again, this eclipse is going to get better and better. So if you know anyone that wants to watch it, just tag them. Let them, don't, especially if you're in an area that's cloudy, just so that they don't miss out on it. Do not want them to miss out on this. So. And even while we've been talking, it's pushed more and more across now. It's a heck of a yawn from Pac-Man.
Yeah, I'm just going to try to center it a little better so I don't lose it.
Go for it.
Bear with me.
Oh, here's a good question. Okay. If the moon was bigger than Earth, what would it look like? That would make us the moon, wouldn't it?
It would. We'd be like Pluto and Charon, where they together circulate, revolve around a common centre of gravity that is outside the surface of Pluto.
Yep. So we would end up being moons of each other.
Yeah. By the way, the Pluto system does produce total solar eclipses, but they are. It's not from Charon because that's way too big, and the sun is too small. That is an occultation. But Styx, the moon Styx, is just about the right size that it covers the sun and produces reasonable eclipses. But they're very small in the sky, as they might expect, being that far away from the sun. You need a telescope to even know they were occurring, let alone see them well.
There we go. That's interesting. I'd never heard of that one, Styx. I'm still learning, so. Andy out west says the only cloud in the sky that he's got is covering the moon at the moment. So we'll keep looking at this. Any more questions? Just keep throwing the questions at us, and we'll keep answering them. Otherwise, you'll have to watch a moon in silence and not learn anything.
I'm breaking out the error guard, that's what I can tell you. Mozzie's.
Here we go. Well, we've lost Kim again. It's back to us. Oh, what have we got? We're gonna have to answer questions. We got the other planets such as Jupiter and Saturn have eclipses more often since they have so many moons. They have transits, don't they? The moons transit across the face of Jupiter, from our point of view anyway.
That's what we see.
That's what we see, yeah.
But there are, because they're more, you're absolutely right. There's 83 or something around Saturn and 60 something around Jupiter or something. So, there are lots of moons to give you the opportunity. Jupiter has lots more eclipses than most other planets because it's the equator of Jupiter and the plane of its satellites is pretty close to the ecliptic. So it's only about a 1 or 2 degree variation. So it often happens that those moons do get in the path of the sun and vice versa because they're lying essentially in the plane of the ecliptic, whereas Saturn's more inclined, the same with Mars and Earth even. Earth is... or Earth defines the ecliptic, of course, but the moon is 5 degrees away from that plane. So, it's very common elsewhere. There were some lovely photos coming from a couple of the rovers on Mars of annular eclipses by Phobos of the sun from the surface of Mars. Fantastic.
Yeah, I saw those. They were stunning, weren't they?
Yeah. And, of course, one of those orbits is so low. Deimos, I think, his orbit is so low that it'll only be another 1 million or 2 years and it'll fragment. It'll go below the Roche limit, fragment, and will probably have rings around Mars.
So we have another question, but it's not really moon related. So I just want to see if one of you guys might be able to answer it. Hayden It's actually Justin's my brother. Hello, Justin. Do you know anything about Planet 9 or Planet X, and do they have eclipses? I don't think we know a great deal about Planet 9 or Planet X, just a theory that it might be there. No proof. No real proof.
That's right. Planet 9 is supposed to be down way out in the way beyond Pluto. So it's a huge way away from the sun. It might have its own little, might be a binary or a ternary system, maybe, and maybe it'll have little eclipses but they won't be. Well, it depends. You'd need to know the geometry before you could do the calculation. But yeah, chances are they would have eclipses, but they wouldn't be very spectacular because the size of the sun in the sky would be so small. It'd be just like a normal star, a bright star.
Yes, it would be. We've got a couple of questions here. I know you've answered this one, but we've got a lot. We've quadrupled our viewers since you answered this or explained this. So it's been asked a few more times. So we'll pop this one up. And why does the moon turn red? Okay,
so it's similar reason why the sky's blue, Pamela. The fact when sunlight reaches the Earth's atmosphere, it turns out that the interaction of the light rays with the atmosphere scatters the blue light more than it does the red light. So when sunlight is coming into the atmosphere, the blue gets scattered. So from our perspective, the sky looks blue. The red gets through. So when you're on the other side of the Earth, the bit of the sunlight that gets through at the edges of the moon, if you're standing on the moon looking back towards the sun past the Earth, the atmosphere would be a thin annulus around the Earth, and the light that goes through that will have the blue preferentially absorbed, and you'll see preferentially the red light coming through to you on the moon. So that's why the moon looks red. It's because the blue's been scattered out of the sunlight. And also it gets refracted. It's not a perfect shadow because the atmosphere refracts some of the light towards the moon. And so the surface can be anything from bright red or deep dried blood colour right through to a very pale yellow or even pink, as we talked about before, and brown. And sometimes there's so much dust and crap in the atmosphere that no light gets through the moon, red or otherwise, and it appears really black and hard to distinguish from the background night sky. I've had one example of that 20 or so years ago, and I really struggled to find it. It was so dark. Not like, well, it might be, that might be the case tonight. We haven't, that shadow side of the moon you're seeing in the bottom half there, it looks really black. I'm not seeing any, it would depend upon the colour management that's going on, but I can't see a lot of red and brown emerging from that yet. But
not yet.
Yeah, the experts will do something with that, no doubt, soon when they get more to play with. But it could be that this is another very dark moon, Pamela.
Yeah, it's looking like that, isn't it?
Hmm.
So I'm trying to see what else we got. See if there's any other questions while we wait for.
I should clarify, Mark, while we're waiting, I should clarify, being an introvert, I sometimes have to replay the tape a couple of times before I get it right. Someone asked about the frequency of lunar eclipses, and I said it wrongly.
Okay,
clarify
it.
Okay, lunar eclipses. What I said was true in the sense that the moon shadow is, I think, 3.5 times or something wider than the moon, but the counter effect. So that means that the moon can go through the shadow relatively easily, but although the moon is much smaller than the Earth, because the Earth's bigger by something like nearly a factor of 4, there's more chance for the moon shadow to pass across the bigger Earth. So it turns out that the extra width of the Earth's shadow compensates for the smaller size of the moon, so that the frequency of lunar eclipses and solar eclipses is about the same. That's what I should have said before. So total eclipses of the moon occur around about at the same frequency as total eclipses of the sun, because the extra size of the Earth compensates for the extra size of its shadow when things are happening on the other side.
Why can't I see the eclipse in Melbourne? You should, if you can see the moon, you'll be seeing what you can see here. most likely it could be buildings in a way, or clouds more than anything, I'd say. Jade, can you talk about the Astronomical Society of Victoria? Are you mostly qualified in astronomy, or can people join who have a general interest? Very few of us are qualified in astronomy. I'm definitely not. I know Lee's not. I know Andy's not. I don't know about Anne-Marie. I don't think you are either. Rod might be qualified in
I
astronomy.
think you'd have to say the member base is
the member
extremely
base
eclectic.
is just general astronomy nuts, people who love astronomy. And it's the same with ASSA, just people who love astronomy. So whether you're in South Australia or whether you're in Victoria, if you're in South Australia, join the Astronomical Society of South Australia. If you're in Victoria, join the Astronomical Society of Victoria. We have a dark sky site with some really nice equipment. We go up, if you remember, you can go up there whenever you want, really. You can learn to use that equipment. We have dark sky meetings up there once a month. We have many different sections: solar section, lunar and planetary, radio astronomy, deep sky. We have a junior section for kids. We have lots of astrophotography. There's lots of different sections depending upon what your interest is. And ASSA are very much the same. We've lost Kim again, so we have no moon at the moment until the clouds clear out of where Andy and Anne-Marie are. Let's see if we can find another question. Here we go. This one I've been seeing a few times, but I haven't had a chance to pop it up. What would you see if you were standing on the moon looking at Earth? Will it look like a solar eclipse as seen from Earth? If it is in the partial phase at Earth, will it be in the partial phase at the moon? So when you're on the moon right now looking back at Earth, does it change the look of Earth?
Well, I'll jump in here maybe.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be... you would have this, if you're standing on the moon during a lunar eclipse, it would be the same geometry as if you're standing on the Earth with a solar eclipse. The main difference is the Earth is 4 times the diameter of the moon, and so you don't see that corona of the sun because of that close match between the size of the moon and the sun when you're standing on the Earth. You don't see that close match, so that you cover just the bright part of the sun's surface and see that beautiful the iridescent play of light that comes as the Earth, as the sun's atmosphere is shown against the dark background in that magnificent, awe-inspiring sight. When you're looking at from the surface of the moon, you will see an orange rim, like a rind of an orange, around the black dark side of the Earth. That isn't the corona of the sun. That would then be that red light I talked about earlier that gets refracted through the thin layer of atmosphere that's silhouetted against the sunlight. So it'd be a spectacular sight, be lovely, and it'd be orange, again, depending upon how much crap there was in the atmosphere. It'd be a lovely sight to see, but it'd be a sort of an orange ring, a narrow orange ring.
Are you still there, Mark? We can't hear. We've got no audio.
Oh, hang on. There I am. Am I back?
Yep.
Now you are
I
back.
was just talking to thin air then. I accidentally
You were.
muted my microphone.
I...
And I hadn't muted it in yet. So what I was saying to Jade, she said, can you pop some links and info up? We don't have anything we can pop up at the moment because we're focusing on the eclipse. But if you go to the website, asv.org.au/join, jump into there, have a look at it. There's a lot of information on the society, what the society offers. that's probably the best we can do at the moment while we're doing the stream. But there's plenty of information on there. If you want to know more, email membership@asv.org.au and they will help you. And so what have we got? Oh, what have we got? Will it ever happen? Because it feels like it won't happen. Just need Melbourne skies to clear during an astronomical event for once. That would be lovely. Absolutely lovely. So just scrolling through these. So you can see there that moon is really starting to seriously disappear now, isn't it? And if you look closely enough, we can see the shadow of it. Like you can just see the shape of it in the shadow there. Just make it out. Well, I can anyway.
Yeah, I just went outside, Mark, and had a look with a pair of binoculars, and it's you can actually make out the rest of the moon that's in shadow. It's a very dull orangey colour, brown orange. Yeah, we have to wait a bit longer though to get the full effect.
So Addison wants to know, did you say the maximum was approximately 10 p.m? Yes, around about 10 p.m. is the maximum, but anywhere from just after 9 o'clock. So in the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes, right up until about 10:45 is when it's going to be at its best for that period of time.
So there you go. Can you see that?
Yeah, you can really see that now. Absolutely.
I've just changed the exposure conditions on that. I'll bring that back a bit. So yeah, there is. You can actually see that you will be able to see the moon in eclipse, full eclipse, I expect.
Yeah, it'll completely change in the next 15 minutes. That's for sure.
Okay. Well, I'll go back to the regular view.
Too cloudy in southeast Melbourne. This is why we're streaming it, because we knew it was going to be like this in Melbourne. So again, ASSA have come to the rescue for us.
It's been more than once, I believe, Mark. Maybe twice only. Anyhow, glad to help.
Just scrolling through. I'm being told off for not checking the Twitch chat. Sorry, Neil. It is all coming through the one stream for me, so I haven't seen any questions other than Neil's lovely comments with photography. Yeah, no more other questions. Just trying to see.
Mark, I just went out and had a look.
Actually, I've got a question.
Oh, hang on a second. Wait for Rod to say what he's seen when he went out and had a look. What'd you see, Rod?
It's fantastic. It's going to be a good one. The dark side is the eclipsed bit is turning out to be a sort of a dirty brown colour, and that'll probably redden up as it gets more fully covered. So it'll be a nice one. And the photos, are black and white here that we're seeing, but in reality, it's quite a dirty brown colour.
Yeah.
So it'll be good.
Yeah,
that's better. Yeah, it's more like that, only not as bright.
A bit like that, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have to wait a bit longer. Get the exposure right.
All right. So we did have another question, and I do know the one that Neil was talking about. I'm going to have to try and scroll and find it. If Osmonday, if you could pop your question up again for us that you popped up earlier, that'd be great. It'll save me tracking my way through the comments because there's a lot of them. Here we go. We need a 6-year-old explanation for how the moon turns red. Explain it in an easy way, if we can.
Okay. Well, it won't be. It's sort of close to being right, but the simplest way is your sun. When you look at a sunset, the clouds and the sun and the sky around the sunset or at sunrise is pink and red, and orange. The same thing is happening there. As the sun's rays pass through the Earth's atmosphere, the blue bit gets taken out, and you get left with red, and that's why the sunsets appear red. same reason that the same thing is happening with the light hitting the moon. It's gone red because it's gone through the atmosphere. I hope you can understand that if you just make an analogy with sunsets.
Okay, so where are we? So we've got some more questions.
I've got a question.
Okay. Oh yeah, you have a question. That's
Come?
right.
Can I ask you? That's right. Yeah. How come the moon and the cloud is moving at exactly the same time? So it's obscuring the moon.
No one
That's
can
what's
answer
happening here. The
that.
cloud.
I can answer that for you, Andy.
Why?
The answer is you live in Victoria. That's the answer.
That must be it. 6 kilometres.
So, Andy,
it'd
looks
be
like
clear as and seriously.
oh, there we go.
I'm getting a bit.
Yeah.
That's my. Just
There's
coming.
cloud in the way,
I'll
isn't there?
fix another camera. Yep.
We'll jump back to this one. Oh, hang on. Here we go. There's a view from Victoria. Not as good as the one from South Australia.
Yep. No. And it's
No, we'll go back to
going to pop
the
out
good view
soon,
from
but
South Australia.
it's moving the same speed.
It's typical Melbourne. The last few years, if it hasn't been cloudy for an event, it's been a lockdown. And then it's been cloudy in the lockdown.
So we've got very steady scene here as well tonight, not to rub it in, but the skies are clear for the most part.
You're rubbing it in.
But also, we've got the 14-inch dob on Jupiter having a quick look, and it's exceptionally steady. I hope that
That's what I just found.
Yeah. Anyhow.
What did you find, Lee?
Oh no, saying that's what I just found. Jupiter.
Oh.
And plenty of
I can
moons.
see Jupiter really clear. Yep, but no moon.
We don't want to see Jupiter yet. Everyone, if we start talking about Jupiter, everyone will get bored of the lunar eclipse and want to see Jupiter.
All right.
I just had to find something that I could. I'm a long way off.
Can you pick up Uranus, Kim?
My field of view is not that great, Rod. I've got a dead pixel or something on the side here. That's not it, though.
Paul, it's clouded out because you live in Craigieburn. Hopefully, you get some clear skies soon.
Actually, if I move the scope a little bit, I might be able to see what I get. Hold on. Famous last words. All right, let's see what happens now. It's wrong way, of course. Go the other way. Keep going. I think I need to. It's about 2 moon diameters, I believe. No, it's not appearing unless I crank up the. It's magnitude 5.6, I think. Unless I crank up the gain even further, which I can do.
We're losing the moon now.
No, we're not going to lose the moon. That's right. I'm going to crank it right up. I don't know what I'm seeing there. Close this. Oh, look at that. How nice is that?
Oh, wow. That's looking really nice.
We're looking for Uranus, mate, Mark.
No, you don't want to look at
Not
that.
that I'm making any jokes.
I'm making the jokes.
No, there's no sign of it there. I can't see. Look, I better go back to the moon before you know what happens.
So there we had a question. Where is there we
There
go.
it is. There it is. Is that Uranus? No.
No,
There's something up there.
It's a dead pixel.
no, it's not a dead pixel. 9-year-old M wants to know what the bright star to the right of the moon is. Do we know
Well,
what
there
that
you go.
is?
Yeah, we know what that is.
What is that?
It's Uranus.
There we go.
Yeah.
Now I've got to orientate this back. Yeah,
You've moved it around.
there we go. All right. Oh, look at
Emery,
that.
have you still got clouds where you are?
No, sort of. I've got both scopes on it, but yeah, I can
Nothing
show
yet.
you. I can show you what I've got.
Yeah, let's have a look at what you've got.
If I can figure out how to do this. Entire screen, I suppose. Can you see that?
Let's just share that. So let's have a look at Anne-Marie. So that's your one there. Oh, you're in gorgeous black and white, aren't you?
Yeah, that one is. That's
Yeah.
that's my big scope with the 1600 mm. So it's not necessarily a planetary camera, but. And then the other one I've got is this one, and that's on my ED80.
Oh,
But I don't know how to control the color.
I'm sure some of the guys here can give you
On the
where it is there in white, where it's got in image controls. Go down a bit.
There you go. Everyone watching,
white-
you're getting a
white
crash course in
RGB.
how to
White balance?
adjust the balance.
Yeah. Oh, they were in the middle before.
Were they?
Yeah, I thought
Things
they
change on this computer.
were. What you might want to do is I tend to take them to a default of. It depends on the camera though, so you sort of
This
make
is
them
my
all,
this is my QHY268C. So once
so
again,
now
it's
that
not a
you've upped to
planetary
them,
camera.
you might have to change your gain
Okay.
because you've upped the white balance a bit.
Ooh, not that much.
Oop.
Not that much.
Or even the stretching, just to get rid of the glow. That's probably about as that's
Yeah.
better. I mean, it's dark, but as Rod and Kim have said before, it may well be dark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't really know what color it's supposed to be.
It's supposed to be this color.
What color? Hang on, let
This
me have a
colour.
look.
Here it comes.
Yeah, I can't get. Oh, well, I suppose I could get the whole thing if I overexposed it.
Yeah.
I like yellow better.
It's not yellow.
That's like
That's
us
for sure.
processing astrophotography. It's like, I like green better, but it's a blue galaxy. Doesn't matter. I like green better.
Ooh, it's getting dark. Isn't it funny how this
know.
one is so steady and yet this one's not?
On yours,
Oh,
Is that the gain or cloud?
I can't see. Mark doesn't have that on screen.
but we'll pop
at the
yours
moment.
back on Anne-Marie. There you go. We're back on Anne-Marie for a bit.
This is
We've
the
got some
this is
moon
the
in Victoria.
ED80, which is pretty rock solid in wind. Now it is windy here, but it's just fuzzy. Whereas this,
Oh yeah.
there's hardly any
Yeah, it's
fuzz.
cleaner.
Yeah. And yet this particular scope gets thrown all over the place in wind. Hey, we're disappearing.
Go back to the other one for a moment. And move up the controls. Oh, they're both on RAW 8. Yeah. You'd get more definition with 16, but
Should I try it?
you may
Not
lose
that,
it.
not that you're going to see much at the moment because it's just about gone.
No.
Looks pretty cool outside out the window.
All right, we're going to jump back to the
That's
really
somebody
nice,
else's.
really nice view of.
That's it.
Yeah, look at that. Beautiful. It's coming through really well.
I've just been out there to have a look through the binoculars, and yeah, it's quite a dark eclipse, but definitely colour there.
Definitely colour, and you're just rubbing it in now. Everyone else on the comments is saying that it's too cloudy and they can't see any of it, and you're just gloating about using binoculars.
No, we've looked at Jupiter and Saturn as well. And, the moon's there.
I saw
we
someone
do have
ask a
another-
question about the bright star in the north that they could see. That's Jupiter.
Oh, that bright star. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's quite
North
fun.
and very up.
8-year-old saying this is so cool. It is very cool, and this is why we do these things: is to share these experiences with as many people as we can.
I have a street sweeper on their way. Hopefully they don't want to move me on.
They'll just sweep around you. Take your telescope with them.
Yeah,
So we also have footage
better
from
images
another.
than I do.
We've got footage from another refractor that's here as well. From Scott.
Yeah, do you want to chuck it on and we'll?
Is Scott there?
We'll have a look.
He should be able to connect.
Yeah, I'm here.
You've got to share your screen.
Yeah, it should be on. Camera's on.
No, you've got to share a screen. I think you've just got yourself as your footage. As I can't make that large, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
Oh, hang on. Here we go. There, I can do that. Look at that. Do it that way. So that. What are we looking at that through? What telescope equipment is that one through?
Scott, are you there? I can speak to it. It's if that's Scott's image.
It is Scott's image, yes.
It's actually the Society's Takahashi 90 millimeter Takahashi refractor, and it's got a 533 ASSA 533 camera on it, a one-shot color camera. I'm running the same camera at the moment. Where's he gone?
Nobody wants to see that.
I'm going to take some images while I'm here.
Do it.
Frames. Frames too many.
Agnes, we're with you. Agnes, who's 6, says they wish you could see it outside and says go away clouds. We say go away clouds as well, but they're not listening to us at the moment.
We've got plenty of room for clouds here at the moment. The sky's completely empty.
You take some of ours.
Just send them over. Actually, no, it usually goes the other way, doesn't it?
Yeah, usually you guys send them to us. So for all those in Victoria watching, just blame the Astronomical Society of South Australia. They sent the clouds to us. It's on there.
I think we'll just cut the feed then. It's really good.
Could we see the solar eclipse from Melbourne? Yes, you can see it from Melbourne. The problem is there are clouds in the way, which is why you can't see it at the moment. Although I am getting comments coming through saying that it is starting to clear in areas like Craigieburn. You might be another half hour or so, you might find you'll be able to get out there and have a look. Oh, Andy's got it back up and running. Let's jump over to Andy's as well. See how? Oh, look at that! Look at the difference in the view there.
Oh yeah,
that's actually nice. Quite stunning, isn't it? It's very striking that just to see that tiny bit of moon left there.
Mm.
Yeah, and I'll just change the exposure a bit. It's a bit crusty, the old exposure what I've got it on, but I'll just bring it up to say just to get a bit more.
Out the window, it looks very similar to what Andy's got.
Yeah, and then my guide scope's on it somewhere. I'll just see what that's looking like now. This is my guide scope, and I can just sort of lighten it right up to get all the. It's a bit blue. Actually, it's a bit. Oh look, there's more cloud. Here we go. But it's got that red tint.
Anne-Marie's got her colour sorted as well, so we'll jump over to Anne-Marie's. Oh, look at that.
Oh, that's good.
That's better.
That's better. So Agnes, just so you know, Agnes has to go to bed soon. When it will, oh, Anne-Marie.
Sorry, I just had to go. I wanted to tell you, what's this little thing?
Uranus.
That's Uranus.
It is it?
Uranus.
All right, I'll get a photo.
Most likely.
Get a photo.
It's not moving.
Agnes, who's 6, has to go to bed soon and asks when will it be at its reddest, which is probably, what's the time now? Within the next 5 minutes, really, it should be starting to really hit its stride, shouldn't it, Rod?
Yep.
And then through till 10.
And then through till, well after 10, actually, 10:45.
Yeah, it probably is redder near the edge of the umbra than it is in the centre of the umbra, because the centre of the umbra is less likely to get any of the refracted light, or not as much of the refracted light. So sort of counterintuitively, it'll be darker in the centre of the umbra in another half an hour or so, 20 minutes or so. But right near the edge of the shadow, it should be at it closest to where the light is able to get through from the Earth's atmosphere there. So, but you can see a little bit. It's getting quite black down to the bottom of that image, whereas it's quite orange and brown towards the top. So that'll be typical, I think. So when you ask, is it redder? It's probably you might be seeing the colour at its best now, because it's closer to the edge of the umbra, whereas it'll get much darker the deeper the moon gets into the umbra. That also looks great, but the colour might be a bit darkish. You guys can work your magic with your colour.
Yeah, exactly.
Of course, you make it whatever you want to, really.
Yeah, they can. I'm going to jump back over to Kim's one, because I just want to see the difference in them. It's quite interesting, just with the different equipment, what you do and don't see.
You can adjust the colour and the saturation, Mark. As Rod was saying, I'm trying to match it, and it's difficult. I looked at it through binoculars a few minutes ago. It probably wasn't this bright. It's got more yellow in it, I think, than this. Yeah, what do you think, Rod?
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So we have another question.
Sorry, I was just going to say that's a little bit more washed out than I'm seeing here with the naked eye when I go out. But it's still a lovely moon. You can see all the markings and everything. It's just completely different look from normal. It's just wonderful.
It's gorgeous. So we have another question from an 8-year-old this time. How old is the moon?
Oh, that's a very good question. It's not much younger than the Earth, but it is a little bit younger than the Earth, because that the moon was formed, they believe, the most commonly accepted theory is that the moon resulted from a massive collision between what they call the proto-Earth, or the first form of the Earth as it condensed from the rubble around the sun, and another body about the same size as Mars, in other words, about half the size of the Earth. And that collision splashed so much stuff out, mostly the mantle of the Earth, not the core, but splashed it out in a massive lot of debris circulating the Earth. And then in a matter of 20 million years or so, that rubble condensed to form the moon. So that was about, people think maybe about 4 billion years ago, whereas the Earth is 4.5 billion years old. So it's pretty old. The moon is pretty old. It's been around for a long time. And of course, then those days it was a lot closer. And it's been retreating it from the Earth slowly due to tidal forces. And 2 or 3 billion years ago, it was much bigger, maybe 3 times the size, 4 times the size in the sky as it is now.
We're losing it slowly but surely.
Yeah, poor thing.
So here we go. Is this Australia? G'day, mate. Welcome to the land down under. It is absolutely live streamed from Australia. In fact, it's live streamed from two of the lowest states in the mainland of Australia, in Victoria and South Australia.
That looked like Ronaldo.
It did. Well, I don't think it's Ronaldo. No, that's not quite Ronaldo. It's Sui.
Yeah.
Not quite Ronaldo. Just trying to see if there are any other questions.
Ronaldo's got some problems at the moment.
He does. Minecraft moon. It is absolutely a Minecraft moon at the moment. For those who play Minecraft, of which I'm one. When will the next eclipse be visible? We were talking about that earlier, but we have, we have way more viewers than we had when you were explaining this, Rod. So you might want to explain when the next lot of eclipses are going to be again.
The next total eclipse, you have got to wait till, I think it's March 2025. So it's 3 years or so away, 2.5 years away. There's a couple of partial eclipses before then, but they're okay. But the total eclipse is the ones you want to go for. So you have to wait for 2.5 years for the next one, Deborah.
What else have we got? We got any others? Oh, hang on. Andy's got his view back again. So that says it's nice and clear over in Lancoop.
That's my guide cam.
That's your
it's my
guide
other
camera.
main cam. And I'll just some more. Yeah, this is my main cam. I'm pushing it a bit. What am I in?
Very red on yours.
Yeah, well, it's a. Oh, what am I on? Daylight. Oh, wait a minute. I'm in the wrong.
You're in the wrong setting.
Guys, I think you're seeing the beginning of totality right now.
We are seeing the beginning of totality right now.
This is it now.
Yep.
And as I was saying, the closer you are to the edge of the umbra, it gets deeper. It gets a deeper, more colourful colour, and it gets darker towards the centre of the umbra because less light is getting through.
Jump back to Kim's one. So yeah, you can really see it's yes.
Yeah, I think it's 1 minute into totality for South Australia. I think it was 8:47 or something. It was supposed to go, or 8:48.
8:47, I think, Rob.
Yeah, so that's pretty much the beginning of totality. So you've got an hour and a quarter where it gradually works its way through, and then suddenly the bright bit starts to appear on the opposite side as the moon moves through to the other side of the shadow.
Do we? Here's one. Do we know where the best path of totality for the 2025 solar? Is there a solar eclipse in 2025?
No, 2025 is a year without a solar eclipse. The next one is next year as you know, in Exmouth, and then 2024, it's the next, as they say in America, another great American eclipse, and then 25 there's nothing, and 26 goes in Europe, in Egypt, across Mecca and everything.
Everyone's going to Egypt.
Yeah, Valley of the Kings, it goes right over.
Oh, that would be amazing to be the Valley of the Kings for a solar eclipse.
Yeah. And then, but if you don't want to leave your own backyard, more or less, then the next one in Australia, total solar eclipse, it goes right over downtown Sydney in 2028.
There we go. Sydney's going to quadruple in size for 1 day.
Yeah. It'll go right across the Kimberley, though, and the Northern Territory, Northern Queensland before it, on its way to Sydney, but it goes right over downtown.
I think you spoke about that in your talk for NACA, didn't you?
For what? I'm sorry?
You spoke about that in the talk I listened to recently. Pretty sure you did. Or somebody else did. Someone did. Someone talked about that one. Somebody did. Yeah. Reed, age 6. Why can't I see the moon? Where is it? I live in Melbourne. Reed, clouds, mate, clouds. You live in Melbourne. That is the answer. Clouds. There are parts of Melbourne that have a clear sky. Oh, we've lost the view. We'll jump across this one. Nobody wants to see our faces. We want to see the moon. There are parts of Melbourne that do have clear skies, but there is a lot of Melbourne that is clouded over at the moment.
I was just loading up an image, Mark, taken by one of our other telescopes up here by Scott. That's all. It's a still. You
jump
can put
across
it up
to the photo quickly. There we go.
Can I zoom in on that? I should be able to zoom in on that. There you go. Well, a bit much.
Bit too much.
All right, so there you go.
Wow, look at that.
So that was just taken a few minutes. Half a second exposure. There you go. All right,
There's a half-second exposure. There we go.
Early into totality. All right. Move that one
I'm
on.
just going to jump back to
the other
Andy's
one back.
Yep. Andy's got a beautiful view at the moment.
Oh, where's my image?
That's almost a rose.
That's
pink, isn't it?
That's just a clip. Yeah, that's a 1 second exposure. I just took that. I just took that. Then that's an exposure. As you can see, a bit of noise around, but because I've got a modded camera, it's a little bit red bias, and so I've turned that off. But as much as I can physically, unless I change programs, which I might do after. But
I'll tell you what, go and change programs and we'll come back and have another look. We'll jump over to Anne-Marie's at the moment. Have a look what Anne-Marie's got. Oh,
Okay.
look at that. Yeah, that's looking very brown, isn't it?
Yeah.
So is that what it should look like, Rod?
Hang on, I've got to unmute. Hang on. I don't really understand the colours on this. I don't know.
Go back.
I don't really.
We jump across back over to Kim's as well.
The tricky bit here is, with the wonders of modern software and processing, you really need to see it with the naked eye to know what it really looks like. And some of the ones that we're seeing, I think, are highlighting. It's making it more colourful than it is really. So we've got to be careful to try and keep it as close to the naked eye image as possible.
Yeah, and I think this would probably be as close to naked eye. Would you agree?
Outside my place here, it seems a little bit browner than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is certainly not bright pink or anything from here with the naked eye. But yeah, this is certainly not bright.
Getting a bit of a reverb there. I'm not sure where that's coming from or who that's coming from. Ivana, what direction do I look to in Q? You look in that sort of northeast-ish direction, but there might be clouds there at the moment.
I can actually see it through a tree at the moment. I'm just not on it yet.
Oh, Lee might get to stream something. This will be a first for a while. Oh, look at that. We can see it from Mill Park. It's coming out in Victoria finally. Drew, glad we could give your kids something to get excited about this evening, and glad it was astronomy as well.
Let me go check.
Yeah, the nice thing about it, another nice thing about a lunar eclipse is, aside from being able to see the stars around the moon, which you never do when it's full, close in at least, is the fact that the details, I mean, you're not blinded by that light of a full moon. And you just, with the dimmer light reaching it, you see all the features like you do in partial phases of the moon. It's lovely.
Yeah. Trying to see if there are any other questions. And we got any more? Cloud in Bayswater. Yeah. Nothing in Wallet yet. And it's Victoria doing its thing. Perfect view in Bairnsdale. Everyone should go down to Bairnsdale. What direction you earned? You got to look in that northeast direction no matter where you are. Don't think there's any other questions at this point. So it's just a matter of enjoying this eclipse. We do have a couple more questions, actually. How long until it comes out of shadow? So that's what. So it's gone in now. So what are we at now? We're at 9:30. So another hour at least before it's fully out of shadow.
About another hour, it'll start coming out of the shadow. No, the actual time when it's fully covered is about an hour and a quarter, an hour and 25 minutes or something. So it'll just start again. The whole process will repeat. In about 20 minutes or so, we'll be in the middle, and then what will come next will be a repeat in the reverse direction of what we've seen over the last hour and a half, 2 hours.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful. So I got a message from Anne-Marie who said, if it's clear where you are and you've got binoculars, get outside and have a look. It's impressive. Thank you, Anne-Marie. We have another question as well. How long does the eclipse last? Well, that was what we're just talking about. So just over an hour this part of the eclipse lasts for, and then it'll slowly come back out again. Why isn't there any eclipses until 2025? That's to do with the moon and how it goes around the Earth, I'm guessing, Rod?
Yeah, I just want to clarify that though. 2025 is a year, a calendar year, when there isn't an eclipse. There is one next year in Exmouth on April 20, 2023, and then there's one in the United States and Mexico in 24. So, but the fact is that they don't occur all the time because mostly because the moon's orbit is inclined by 5 degrees roughly to the Earth's orbit, so it doesn't always pass across the face of the sun or on the opposite side to the sun at full moon, because it passes above or below the shadow of the Earth, or in the case of solar eclipses, above or below the sun itself. So it's if the moon's orbit was totally in the same plane as the Earth's orbit, you would get a solar eclipse every month, and you at the new moon, and you would get a lunar eclipse every month at full moon. But because there's this misorientation of the two orbit planes, often the moon is above or below the shadow of the Earth, and so you don't get a lunar eclipse, or it's above and below the sun, so you don't get a solar eclipse every month. If you wait long enough in the one place, the average time between a solar eclipse occurring in your own backyard, just sitting there with your barbecue, on average, it's 365 years or 75 years between eclipses that passing over the same place. But there's a big variability. The little town where Neil Armstrong was born, I forget the name of the town, in the United States, for example, is having saw the eclipse of 2017 went over his hometown, and the eclipse of 2024 will do the same. So there's only 7 years between those two eclipses. But Tel Aviv, for example, in Egypt, I don't believe has had an eclipse for 1,300 years. So there's a big variation in the distribution of eclipses across the Earth's surface, as you might imagine. But on average, it's about 375 years between seeing it from the same place. But if you wait long enough, every inch of the Earth's surface will see an eclipse, because the randomness of the motion means that eventually one will pass over you.
So that's Leah's saying the person being interviewed on the radio 3AW this morning says there wasn't going to be another one for another 430 years. Now I'm confused. I'm not sure who was being interviewed, but there definitely is going to be other lunar eclipses. That's for sure. You're not going to have to wait 430 years.
It was very frustrating with the one a year ago too, Mark, and sorry, I've forgotten who the person asked the question was about 3AW. Then they were saying it's the longest eclipse for 630 years, I think. So it depends on what they're saying. You might have to wait another whatever many years to get an eclipse that's 6 hours long, just a few minutes short of 6 hours, like this one is totally. But that doesn't mean that there aren't other shorter eclipses between. Well, it certainly doesn't mean it, because there is one. There's another two between now and 2025, and there's another total eclipse in 2025, lunar eclipse we're talking about now. So, that is a clearly wrong statement, unless they were saying one of a 6 hours duration. They might have been saying that, in which case they aren't wrong. So, like everything nowadays, you just have to take something out of context, or if you miss a word, sometimes the total meaning changes.
So I'm just seeing here, Andrew Holschuster. I have a question. Andrew, can you pop your question in the chat, and we'll try and answer it. And for those asking, am I doing YouTube comments? Yes, I am doing YouTube comments as much as I can as well for our team here. It's just there are so many of you watching and popping comments up that they are flying through. So apologies if I miss your question. And Bill Stent, the telescope gent, we can all see Uranus as well. If anyone needs a telescope, Bill Stent's your man. we're trying to see if we've got any other questions. Great. Here we go. Some praise for the team. Great jobs, ASV and ASSA. Thanks for sharing this tonight. Learned heaps, especially appreciate it for those of us in Melbourne where clouds prohibited viewing. Got a great view of it now. I'm glad the skies have cleared for you, that's for sure. And thank you everyone for tuning in. We're going to jump back to Kim's view now while Lee plays around with his settings. Yes, exactly right, Neil. I'm managing hundreds of viewers, well, over 1,000 viewers on 3 platforms. Doing our best. We are getting through it though. So.
Also, by changing my settings, do you mean finding a chainsaw for that tree?
Yeah, that's exactly what I mean. Here we go. We're going to jump across to Andy's view now, and then I might jump over to Anne-Marie shortly as well. So Andy's got this view of the eclipse at the moment.
Yeah, I've just changed software. I'm running SharpCap now, another free program, and just changed a few settings. But yeah, the colour's a bit better. I've just colour balanced it a bit better. You get a bit of a red bias with the modded cameras, which is it takes the IR filter off, and it lets the red spectrum a bit more. So, but that is about the true colour now.
Now there was another question I saw.
Whoops.
Where is Bill Stent located, please? I can't tell you that. I'll get in trouble if I tell you that because his organisation's not sponsoring the raffle that we've got going. So now, while I'm looking through these comments and looking for another question, just letting all those viewers know, it doesn't matter whether you're in South Australia or New South Wales or Queensland or Victoria or even overseas. The ASV has a public viewing night next Friday night at Caulfield Racecourse Reserve. There are tickets still available for that. The link is on our website. We also have tickets available for the general public still for our Christmas star party or Starbecue, which unfortunately is on election day. So if you want to come, early voting or postal vote, and then come and hang out and see Santa and see the Milky Way at our dark sky sites.
Yeah, a bit like solar eclipses, Mark, if I can just fill in some space here, if that's all right.
Yeah, go for it.
The solar eclipses, of course, are renowned in history for having changed the course of history in some ways. There's a whole story, lots of stories associated with them. But lunar eclipses have also played a big part in some historical events. For example, Christopher Columbus's third trip to the New World. His little armada ran into some problems with their boats, and they had wrecked a lot of the hulls in some coral or something like that, and they were forced to spend some months with the native population of the islands they ran into. And after a few months, when nothing was happening, they weren't making much progress with the repairs. The native people got a bit jack of supplying all these sailors with food and everything, shelter and everything, and they started saying, look, come on, you've got to get out of here, guys. And things started to get a bit nasty. And as it happened, Columbus had his what's called ephemerides. They're, for those that younger people, they're the tables of celestial event timings and things. And he knew that there was going to be a lunar eclipse coming up soon. So he carefully thought about it, all credit to him, and said to the natives in one of these consults they had where they were trying to get them to continue to supply them with food, he said to them, look, this is not good. God is not happy with you not giving us the food and starting to throw us out. If you don't do this, he will cut off the light from the moon. And no one believed him, of course. And he said, well, you wait. And he got the timing pretty well. They weren't great at predicting them really accurately in those days, but they knew roughly how long they'd be from historical records. And anyway, in the next few hours, lo and behold, the moon did go into the shadow, and so he's able to come out and tell the natives, look, God is taking the light of the moon away because you're being so nasty to us. And they started to get really scared because, this is the first time they'd ever seen this, and this guy from the new world the old world had been able to predict this and apparently had the ear of God. And so they said, no, look, all right, well, as it got darker and darker and darker, as we've seen over the last hour, as the light got progressively cut off and it became this blood red colour, the natives got all really excited and unhappy and started to say, no, we didn't mean it. We will supply you with food. And so Columbus didn't jump on the bandwagon straight away. He went back to, he said to them, well, look, I'll have to talk to God again and see if he forgives you for doing this. And I'll get back to you. So he went into his tent and came out, and he knew how long the eclipse would last, roughly speaking. So he went in there for half an hour or so and came out again just when he knew the moon would start to appear again, having passed through the shadow of the earth. And he came out and he said to them, the natives, all right, God has agreed, if you provide us with food for as long as we need it till the ships get repaired, he'll give the light back. And so they agreed, and lo and behold, in the next few minutes, the moon started coming out of the umbral shadow, and everyone was happy. Everyone lived happily ever after, including Columbus, who was able to hang around and get his ships repaired. True story, apparently.
Yeah, that's very, very cool. Very cool. Now, just quickly, Danny, where can we sign up for those future events? www.asv.org.au. On the front page here, if you scroll down, you'll see a whole host of different events for the public to come along to book tickets to come along to. And I did see someone ask, here we go. This one's for the telescope people on the stream. How much is a good telescope able to see other eclipses like these? I'm going to throw this one out to Lee if he wants to unmute and give it a burl.
How much is a good telescope? Like these?
Doesn't necessarily need to be eclipses. If a telescope can see the moon, it's going to see an eclipse. So what would you recommend, Lee?
How much is it? I assume that's really like the dollar value.
Yeah.
Look, it's going to vary. Anne-Marie mentioned earlier, and she's got an ED80. They tend to retail around $1,000 just for the telescope, so not including mounts and cameras and eyepieces and everything else. The one I'm using tonight is I think about $2,000, again not including the mount and other things, but at the same time, next to my my main telescope, I've got just a DSLR camera with a telephoto lens, so it doesn't really cost, I mean, that was a little bit expensive, but it doesn't really cost that much to sort of get a bit of an image regardless.
So that's from an astrophotography point of view, isn't it? But from a visual point of view,
yeah,
you can start with a Dobsonian, or you can start
Dobsonians. So like they're about $800, $600 to $800 for a Dobsonian.
Depending on the size, $600-800. They vary.
And with a good eyepiece, you'll get the moon pretty much in full view of the eyepiece,
Exactly.
I believe.
Here's a question. We'd be interested to know how much a good pair of binoculars would be also. So yeah, like you can get binoculars, decent binoculars for under $100, can't you?
I bought 2 pair, which was actually used for commentating football. They were about $60 each, and they're actually not too bad for astro. In fact, I think they are a Celestron. Certainly you can go up from there. You've got binoculars that are, some binoculars that are worth more than the telescope I've got.
That's true.
So the range is, the binoculars tend to, when you buy them, because you don't put eyepieces in them like a telescope, you tend to be best to get them fitted for you, so to speak. So because people have different sized eyeballs, and so the different sizes, whether it's a 7x50 or a 10x50 or 9x70 or things like that, you're best to actually go and view them rather than just buying something online.
Yeah, so there's in Melbourne anyway, there's a couple of stores that I would straight up recommend. Go and chat to obviously the guys who are sponsoring our raffle at the moment, Optic Central. Go and see Gerald Gretsch. Make sure you call him Astrologer Man. He really likes that. Or you see Bill Stent, the telescope gent at Sidereal Trading. Both those guys will be able to help you out with binoculars. They'll make sure that you purchase the right pair that suits your budget and what you're trying to achieve as well. I'm not sure, Kim, in Adelaide, if you got any recommended places that people could go to get binoculars?
We have one retailer in town. They're very helpful, big sponsors of ours. Adelaide Optical Centre on Grenfell Street, they're very good. They'll certainly help you out for sure. I mean, or you can come along to a star party or come along to one of our telescopes in the park event. We've had a few of those this year. We show members and the public different types of telescopes and make recommendations for models of telescopes, depending upon what people are trying to achieve. So yeah, that's probably another way. Just get in touch with the club and get involved there, and you can find out a lot more. Hey, I've got an image here which you can share, Mark, if you just a moment. It's a still image taken with one of your favourite devices, and that's a phone.
Oh, yes, astrophotography.
But the phone was attached to a 14-inch Dobsonian telescope.
That's a cracking phone image of the moon. I love it. Absolutely love it.
So that was just held on with one of those little Celestron XYZ holders. And yeah, Ian Somerville just took that a few minutes ago and just shared it here. So yeah, there you go. So you can actually just get a little holder for your telescope, like a Dobsonian telescope. It'll just hold your regular phone, and you can take photos that way as well, at least with bright objects.
So I think we've kind of answered this question, but we'll answer it again. Rod can answer this one again. One from YouTube. How do we know exactly when these eclipses will occur? And we're talking about it earlier, weren't we, Rod? It's maths, and lots of maths.
Yes, that's right. Well, the basic information you need, of course, is the masses of the celestial bodies interacting. And I know that what's called the three-body problem is a tricky problem in physics. But when one object dominates the other two, it becomes a relatively easier calculation. So these calculations are never exactly right, really exactly right. But we know about their masses, we know about their orbits very well from all of the science that we've done about the movements of the planets and the moon over the last, particularly the last few decades. We know these things very accurately. We've now got reflectors on the moon that tell us exactly the distance it is, for example, and the method and the physics, the celestial mechanics we know from Newtonian times, which are pretty good in these sorts of situations for predicting motions of bodies. We know by the masses, their distances, the orbits, the inclinations of them, how they're going to interact with each other, how they warp, as Einstein would say, in space-time, how their mass warps space-time and therefore dictates where they will move, how fast they'll move and when they'll be there. So you feed that information, that raw information, into a whole stack of mathematical functions, a lot of them called Bessel functions, special sort of functions that talk about motions of bodies and so forth. And you can come up with, we know so much about this now, we can come up with accurate predictions of the relative positions of these bodies for thousands of years into the future and thousands of years into the past. So such accuracy, down to about a second in the case of solar eclipses, and in the case of the distance on the ground, where you stand about when it will occur, to within a couple of 100 meters. So these are very accurate. We know so much about the science and the motion of these bodies that we know when they'll be in relation to each other at any time. So we use those functions to predict when the next eclipse will occur, where it will occur, how long it will last. The only things we can't predict as well are, for example, we talked about earlier tonight, what the colour of the moon will look like. And I just say, I've just come back in again from having a look at this with the naked eye, and there's something about a lunar eclipse when you look at it with your own eyes, your own stereoscopic vision. Because it's not so bright in the eclipse, and because it's got this unusual colour contrasted against the black of the background sky, it almost looks like it's a sphere. You just get a three-dimensional view of it. For those of you lucky enough, I'm really sorry for you Victorians, you can't see it as well as we can over here, but at the moment, it just looks beautiful. It's a cross between what they call an old city red brick, paled off a bit, and with a bit of yellow in it, and allowing for the fact that one side of the moon is brighter than the other because it's closer to the edge of the umbra, so it's not a uniform colour. It gets this beautiful three-dimensional view. I have to tell you, the photos, as good as these are, as good as the equipment is, when you put the photos onto 2 dimensions, it loses that sense of, obviously, 3 dimensions that you get when you look at it with your naked eye or a set of binoculars. Beautiful.
I totally agree.
I feel like I need to let you guys run the stream for a moment while I run outside and have a quick peek. So
Yeah,
I'm
go
gonna
and have a
handle
look with your own
I'm gonna
eyes.
handle
It's
it to you
amazing.
guys and go and have a quick peek and see if that's
Yeah.
what it looks like for me, because it is clearing in Victoria. A lot of people commenting say they've got a great view of it at the moment, which is wonderful.
Yeah, it's
So
definitely clear.
I'll be back.
Looks so much better with your own eye.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it?
It does.
Make
yeah.
sure you keep chatting to our viewers.
Yeah, and seeing all the features now, it's so unusual to see the full globe of the moon with all of the features quite visible in binoculars. It's usually just so bright.
It's absolutely beautiful.
Yeah.
Not one that I like to photograph a lot. Not.
Sorry, why is that? Why don't you like photographing it?
Oh, I just don't think it's as good as you can see
Oh,
with
yeah.
your own eye.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Sorry, I'm
Yeah,
too slow.
yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm more a deep space person who I like to photograph things that I can't see with my own eye. Whereas the moon, like if you go out there now, it looks spectacular. And I look at it on my screen here and I think, yeah, nah, I don't like it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know what you mean about the deep sky stuff. You just have to have the assistance to be able to see them, because we can't integrate like a sensor can. We just see what comes into our retina at any particular time. We can't add it up.
That's right.
Yeah. I wonder how many of the viewers are going to Exmouth next year to have a look. There should be tens of thousands of us because there's so little land.
I plan to go, but there's no accommodation over there. It's all gone.
Everyone's going.
Yeah.
You have to camp, but how do you get your camping gear there?
Well, they've just opened up 1,000 campsites or something, unserviced, admittedly. No, you have to take your own water and everything, just south of the township. But that you'd have to
drive to get your camping gear there.
That's right. Yeah, well, that's what I'm doing.
That's a long way.
I'm back, and I can report it's a lovely hue of dark grey black cloud.
Oh no!
No, not where I am.
Where I am, I can't see it.
No,
that's okay.
I've
got this beautiful live stream view from Andy out west, and we've had the beautiful view from Kim and from Anne Marie. Actually, I'm going to jump across to Anne Marie's again now because that's looking quite nice. So there you go. I can't even see it.
That's actually pretty close to the colour I'm seeing over here.
So that's almost, there we go. So that's pretty, can you zoom in a bit on that, Anne-Marie?
Yeah.
So we've got this question. If you looked out your window right now, scale of 1 to 10, how clear is it? Well, for me, 0, because it's not clear at all.
This is very grainy.
Clear, Mark. There's a bit of cloud going over now, but that's it.
I should have put the planetary camera on, but never mind.
That's okay. We learn from our lessons. You can do it next live stream of a lunar eclipse.
Not doing moon again.
Not for 3 years at least.
Nor the planets. No, not doing it.
I do think we are due for another deep sky live stream. Some galaxies and planets, galaxies and nebula again.
Actually, I think a lot of the problem I'm having here tonight with this grain, I'm just watching my internet over there and it keeps flashing red. So I'd say I've got an internet problem that's causing the graininess. Hopefully it's okay out where the scope is. So when I take photos, hopefully they come out all right.
And it's beautiful. So it's...
You still on mine, Mark?
Yeah, I am. I just got interrupted.
I'm just wondering what this big bright thing is down here.
Down where?
Down
Very close to it.
That
cursor is.
Star?
No. On the moon. Can't you see my cursor?
Oh, no, can't see your cursor. Are you talking about
okay,
down the
slightly between
7 o'clock.
Yeah, sort of between 6 and 7 p.m.
Yep.
Isn't that
That
Copernicus? No,
It's
no.
Aristarchus, isn't it?
Right.
Aristarchus. Yeah, it's one of the big ejector
Yeah.
craters.
Oh, okay.
Oh my God, look at that. I knew something kind of. I'm learning. All right, here we go. Here's a question from YouTube. What happens during maximum totality? Nidesh, this is what happens during maximum totality. This is it, isn't it, Rod? This is what you get.
We're just about at maximum now.
We are, yeah. You just get this gorgeous sort of burnt ochre sort of view of the moon. It's much less pink than it was last year.
Yeah, I've just looked at my lunar map, Mark, and that's Aristarchus, that white dot down the
I
bottom.
knew it's one of those ejector ones, so I just don't know where they all are yet. Still learning.
And some of them are showing, some of the images are showing up the beautiful rays on Tycho. At 4 o'clock or something, or 3 o'clock, whatever it is.
Well, can't quite see it on this one.
Not this one particularly, but some of the others were magnificent rays on Tycho.
you'll see it on mine in mono.
We'll jump over there. Yours just looks like a normal.
Oh,
moon.
yeah, there it is, 4 o'clock. Beautiful.
Yeah, it just looks like a full moon.
Yeah, yours just looks like a moon.
Yeah, I can do this. Now there's just no colour. Well, there wasn't any anyway.
I'm going to see if we can see it on Kim's one. So Kim's slightly out of view. We'll make him work a bit and see.
What do you want me to do? I'll just come back in. I had a look through binoculars. It looks stunning. Very three-dimensional. Lots of faint stars in the immediate vicinity. So I'm going to try to match the colours now, but I don't know how well that's going to go. Okay, have a go. I think it's... Can't see what I'm doing here. Okay, maybe I'll take out some blue. That's not making much difference, is it? That's making no difference. What's going on here?
Got to take the
I'm just going to check my camera's working properly.
See if we can see the ejector ray.
My camera's working right. Just bring it back. It's a bit slow because exposure's so long. Okay.
Yeah, the exposure's too long on my binoculars too.
Yeah, it's really hard to match this, isn't it? I think it's got more, it's probably close there. That's as good as it's going to get, I think. But it's lovely to look at outside.
Yeah, it is, isn't it? It's just beautiful. Take your breath away. Just sitting up there in the middle of nowhere, just so unusual.
Camera. Yeah, I don't know.
Maluna, I'm hearing you. It's cloudy where I am as well, but thankfully our team are located around Victoria and South Australia. We've got these lovely live views of the eclipse for you. So once again, if you've just joined the stream, share it amongst your friends and family so that they can, if it's cloudy where they are, they can see this, because it's going to start coming out of eclipse as well. We're not going to hang around for the whole thing, but we'll stay here for as long as we can for you. Wow. There's a YouTube getting banned, putting time out. We don't like those language. That's the first bad language I've seen on our stream.
Someone talking about Uranus again.
No.
Has anyone had a crack at
everyone's
Uranus?
favourite friend, Trump.
Say again, was that Kim or Rod?
Has anyone had a crack at looking at Uranus yet? Eyeball?
It should be right near it on the... I'm trying to see.
I've got stellarium if you want to see where it is.
Actually go and see it naked eye.
It should be up and to the right a bit. Sort of
above, up and to the right.
2 o'clock-ish. that lovely little star that's there is otherwise known as, I believe, HD 18091. Very scientific
Yeah, that's the
name.
one.
Yeah, no, it's quite easy in binoculars to see.
I thought that's what it was.
No, actually, I think it's oh, you said 18091.
Yeah.
It's 44 RE.
Oh, is it?
Yeah, well, which is HD is 18091.
I like my name better.
So Uranus is on the opposite side of that. And
It's sort of at 2 o'clock.
about another moon and a half length up. I think I'm in full cloud though at the moment.
No,
so I can't
Tycho.
get to it.
While it's
Oh, no.
dark, guys,
You can see Tycho there.
while
quite
it's
nice.
dark, we should quickly do a bit of. We could do some deep sky imaging. A quick,
Yeah, we
well, the
one of
moon's.
our guys, one of the guys here, Scott, just took a photo of an image of the Andromeda galaxy, of course.
Yeah, I reckon I can get it from here.
Yep, there's perfect
Oh.
position.
Enough.
Guys,
Yeah,
this
perfect
is a lunar eclipse live stream. This is not a deep sky live stream.
I
Gotta
can
keep these
definitely
guys
see
in check.
triangular.
They're always wanting to do deep sky. A lot of them.
All I've got is deep cloud at the moment. Oh no, I'm clear.
So what do you go? What is a really bright star to the left of the moon? Not the one in the view, the really bright one in the sky. How far to the left is
That would
the
be
question?
That would be Jupiter, I'm gonna
I
say.
think it would be, wouldn't it? It's that's more like right up high to the left.
Did
the other
what does it
bright
say? What is
star.
it really bright to the left of the moon? Not in this view. Really brightest one. Yeah, that's going to be Jupiter.
I mean,
Yeah,
Jupiter's
if
the
it's,
bright-
it's really
up and
bright-
to the left,
Yeah.
If it's well, also when you say to the left, which way are you facing?
yeah, true.
If you're
Yeah.
facing south, it will be Achernar. If you're facing north, it'll be, and to the left, it means Jupiter.
Mark and Kim, I'm going to have to draw curtains from this end at the moment. I've got a big expedition starting early in the morning to look at
That
the
is
glaciers.
fine. We appreciate you jumping on and helping us out. We probably won't be on too much longer ourselves, but because we've been going now, nearly 2.5 hours. So we
It's
might
been a
hang
real
around
pleasure,
for a
must
little
say.
bit longer. It's keep
I've got
everybody
to
watching.
pack and get my everything ready for this geological expedition I got starting early in the morning, so all day. So
Thanks, Rod.
it's been a real pleasure, Mark and Kim, and thanks for the opportunity to talk to everyone. It's been a delight, and
That's great.
you're maestros at this, you guys. It's fantastic.
We're still learning after
Rod.
2.5 years. So.
Everyone stay well, all right? And I look forward to
We
seeing you
will,
next time.
and enjoy your expedition. And thank you very much for sharing your knowledge with everybody tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Rod.
Cheers.
Absolutely.
A round of applause for Rod, everybody.
Well,
We can hear them clapping from here.
thank you. You're too kind.
No
See you,
worries.
everyone. Bye.
See you later.
Bye.
All right, so we're going to have to really wing it from here now, guys. We've just lost our special comments, man. I did see a question here.
Must be time to move on to
Totality-
deep sky or something.
No, this is a lunar eclipse live stream. No. Totality yet. What's the time?
It's gone dark.
10:01. Yeah, pretty much on it now. Not much longer to go till we're fully. Actually, no, I think it is
this is
Totality now.
It is. I've
it
lost
is.
it.
It is, yeah.
If you can't see it, it's Totality.
I can't see it. What's it doing outside?
So theoretically, this is as deep as it's going to get. And I'm looking out the window. And
It's right in the middle now.
Yeah.
Oh, there it is.
It's got 45 minutes before it starts popping out, right? They're looking at Andromeda with a 14-inch now. I can hear them outside. I think I might join them for a minute. You didn't say we can't do visual.
No, I didn't say you can't do visual. It says you can't do live imaging because
Just don't share it.
We're putting on this lovely stream for
All right. Well, yeah, look at Andromeda.
everybody.
For 14-inch
and it's not just Victorians and South Australians and Australians. We've got I mean, here we go.
Got someone in Florida.
From the Philippines. I'm just going to scroll through. So
Everyone,
here we go.
please tell us where you're watching from. Yeah.
Yeah, let us know where you're watching
Brazil,
from.
you
Mexico.
mentioned. You mentioned there was going to be Brazil. They were promoting it in
people
Brazil.
from Brazil will be watching as well. Lockington, Victoria. I've no idea where that is, but it's in Victoria somewhere. Where else we got? Let us know where you're from as well. Colorado.
Just looking now, the moon's actually going about to. I think it's going to eclipse the. What do you call it? What do we call it? It is
HD or HR
44RE.
18091.
Yeah. Which we had when we did the live stream at Caulfield last year. We had it eclipsing Antares, which. Yeah.
So where else have we got people watching from? What have we got? Let's have a look. Mornington Peninsula. Let's see if we can find the furthest
Indonesia?
place from Melbourne that's watching.
That would have been Florida, surely.
I don't know. Hawkesbury, New South Wales is pretty far away.
It's a different planet. Apologies.
We got Doreen. We have Hughesdale.
There we go. It's nearly eclipsed.
It is. Yeah, no, it is. It's
No.
there.
The 44RE. It's
Oh
gone.
yeah, it's nearly gone, isn't it? It's getting there.
just gone.
And I've got cloud again.
GAW gone.
Wow, I can't keep up with where everybody is.
But not it's
Parkville,
visible here. You
Brisbane.
can see mine.
Welcome.
See where my
Oregon, another
mouse
one.
is?
Oregon. Sorry, what was that, Andy?
Say again, Andy.
Well, it's
Yeah, that's
not
it
eclipse
there.
that stars.
It's not eclipsed.
So because the distance from Melbourne, because I'm in SA,
Oh, yes.
or just on near SA, it's
Yep.
still visible here.
Let's have
Correct.
a look at
How do you measure
Kim's one, who's over in. And look how much. Here we go. Look at that. In South Australia, or in Adelaide, it's twice as far away as it is for Andy.
Yep. And then mine's already gone behind.
And then yours
And Melbourne
is
is
gone.
Well, if I go to the actual the mono,
New Zealand.
yeah, where was it? It was. I've got to go to that page.
Riddles Creek.
Is basically here.
I think Backer Burke is the furthest away so far.
So with that information, we can actually work out how far apart we are.
Yeah.
We should
Yeah,
be
you're
able
really
to,
good
yeah.
with trig.
Except we didn't note the exact timing.
No.
But also, I suppose it's the sort of thing where as long as we knew the longitude, we could work out the latitude
There we
perfectly.
go, Lee. Which star is that? Catalogue designation.
That is.
I
It's
was just looking at that
It's
myself.
P1RE or 44RE or HIP 13579 or SAO 93178 or HD 18091. So many different options to go with.
Do you like mine, Mark? Just show them what I've got at the moment.
Oh, she's gone deep sky, surely.
No, I haven't.
No.
Ah, it's the cloud moon. You've
It
got
is.
cloud passing through. See what happens when you say you want to do deep sky, Anne-Marie? The clouds come in.
If I was out there, I'd be facing the other way. It's perfectly clear.
We'd still be on narrowband, though.
When will it start? Will it start to eclipse? It's already eclipsing right now.
You can see down the bottom it's starting to peek through.
Yeah, it's starting
Yeah.
to come back through, isn't it?
Yep.
On the other side
It
now,
is, because my
slowly.
colour images started to brighten
Yeah.
up without any changes at all to the camera settings.
what time will the eclipse end? I believe in Melbourne it's around about 10:45 that it ends. So that it starts to come out of into what is it, the penumbra. But I think Rod was saying the total length of the whole eclipse from start to finish is close to 6 hours. We're not going to stream for 6 hours. We've been going for nearly half that time. But yeah, a total of about 6 hours. But we'll probably give it a little bit longer, another half hour, maybe to sort of 10:45. We are, just so you're aware, we do this as volunteers. So we all, or most of us, have day jobs that we work in and families, and this is just our hobby. So we do these live streams for the love of it and to share everything. Share share the night sky with you guys as much as we can.
Share the knowledge, share the love.
Share the love, share the knowledge. Why is the left side still brighter? Well, the left side wasn't brighter earlier. The right side was. Now the left side's getting brighter. Okay, here's a question. Frog of Deception would like to know, what telescope would you recommend for a beginner? It's a very deceptive frog. Capable of relatively good images of Saturn and Jupiter. Also, this is quite good. I think I also observed the one of the last lunar eclipses. It was redder. I agree. It was a different hue, that's for sure. Telescopes for beginners, capable of relatively good images of Saturn and Jupiter. If you really want to go beginner, once again, you go back to the Dobsonians, you get a phone adapter, you put your phone on the phone adapter, attach it to the eyepiece, and you film Jupiter and Saturn and the moon, and you do what Lee calls lucky imaging with a program where it will pick out the best frames and stack them for you. That would be the most cost-effective way. That's how I started in astrophotography. Lee will attest to that. And as you get better, you'll move to more complex equipment, tracking equipment. So I now use the Star Adventurer, which, when you polar align yourself, if I had started with the Star Adventurer, I probably would have got very frustrated with astronomy. I started with the Dobsonian. I went to a 2-star align Meade 8-inch, and now I have a Star Adventurer, which I have to manually polar align and manually find the objects that I want to image. So that would be the best way to start from scratch.
Mark, can you hear me?
Yes.
You know, the question about why is it brighter on one limb and it has changed. I can answer that if you like.
Go for it.
Assuming I can fire up my PowerPoint and not crash everything. Hold on. So, here it is. But I think I had an animation here from earlier in the week, which I think I can show. I reckon it's this one here. So let me just open that up, and I'll stop sharing that for a moment and share the other one. So share.
Oh, I'm going to ban that one, block user.
That one. And I'll, so let's see if this plays. See how the moon, okay, so this is an animation that NASA created.
It's not coming
Hang on a second. Here we go. There we go.
Yep, there we go.
Okay, so this is oops, have you got it, or has it stopped?
Yeah, we're all good to go now. If you want to start it.
Okay. Yeah, it's playing now. Can you see it?
Yep.
Okay, so this is an animation NASA created, and it just shows the passage of the moon into the umbra and the penumbra. And the umbra is the darkest part. And you see it doesn't, during this eclipse, the moon doesn't go straight through the middle of the umbra. It's over to one side, slightly, towards the top side of this. And what you'll see is, as it sort of moves around, I don't know if they've animated that properly here, it's actually closer to that inner circle at the top there. And that will appear brighter because that's closer to where there's more light in the Earth's shadow. And it'll swing around to the base of the moon rabbit, so to speak, in a moment before it comes out of eclipse. And that's the reason. It will always be brighter on one side or the other unless it passes right through the middle of the umbra. Okay, and that's the reason. So it is a dynamic effect that changes during the course of the eclipse.
That's a really good video, that.
Okay. All right, so that's the explanation. The other thing that's come up a couple of times today is, why is it red, or that reddy brown orangey colour? Now, if you're standing on the moon and looking back towards the Earth, what you're going to see is a dark Earth, maybe with some light pollution, as is indicated here through North America. But the thing that will stand out the most is the red perimeter and the orange glow around it. And these are the sunsets and sunrises all around the Earth. And that's that light that's falling upon the moon at the moment. And the reason the red light gets through it is because it's got a longer wavelength. It's not scattered, whereas the blue light has shorter wavelengths and is scattered and gives us our blue skies, as Rod said earlier. But the red light passes through, having a longer wavelength, and makes its way to the moon. And that's why the moon appears this reddish colour. And you never tell what colour and what shade of red or orange it's going to be until the actual event. So that's that image there helps to illustrate that concept.
Well,
Lee,
imagine
I've got
actually
something
looking at that real.
Yeah.
I've got
and imagine the
a
future
question.
where we may have so much light pollution, we'll get a white light on the moon, eh? Maybe not.
Oh gosh, that'll be boring then, won't it? White light with white. We do have a question that I think Lee can, and Andy, and even Anne Marie might be able to answer this one, and Kim, you as well. When I was talking earlier about Lucky Imaging, what was the app? What was the program? What program do you guys use for Lucky Imaging?
Oh, it's called Fire Capture.
Auto Stack It.
Yeah, Auto Stack is one. Fire Capture is the other one. What other ones are there?
Sharp Cap.
Well, Fire Capture will
Sharp
do the
Cap?
imaging, and so will Sharp Cap. They'll just take the video. Like if you swap over to my thing at the moment.
Yep, there we go.
So in this software here, I can say start capture. I can tell it what it is. I can do a time limit, or we can do 1,000 frames, for instance. And based on the frame size, I mean, these are quite long actually, because it's dark. We can see here it's capturing down the bottom. I don't know if you can just see that. It's got 13 frames, 14 frames. It'll go up to 1,000. So that creates a video. And then the other software we use is Auto Stack It, which is weirdly spelt. It's auto, the word auto, and then STAKKIT, I think.
I'll make that easy for you because Stuart's watching our Stuart's our lunar and planetary section director.
Right.
So Reggie stacks after Auto Stack It,
Right.
and there's spelling for both
so
of them.
Auto Stack It will find the best number of images depending on what parameters you give it. You might say, give me the best 25% or the best 10% or something. And then that will stack and give you a single image, like a TIFF file. So it'll be quite large. And then Registax is a software that does some unbelievably awesome wavelet functions, it's called. And it sharpens it up. I know, Mark, when you and I first learnt to use it, what was it, sometime last year?
Yeah.
It was unbelievable how we went from having fuzzy rings on Jupiter to actually seeing the red spot, and it was unbelievable.
Absolutely. Yeah, the change was insane, really.
So the fact that the software can actually pull that detail out that we just can't see.
All right, so I've got an example that I'm going to share. I'll share my screen. I know it's not the moon. Sorry. So that is an example of just a still handheld to an eyepiece of Jupiter with a phone. And then once you use Lucky Imaging, you go to that, and that's with a phone attached to the eyepice. Yeah. So that's what Lee's saying. When you use Lucky Imaging, all those processes from Auto Stack It and things like that, that's the difference from not using that program to using that program.
Yeah, they do take, sometimes depending on your processing power, they can take a little while to run. And one thing I sort of learnt more recently, I would have to say, is don't be like I had the option there. I could have done 10 minutes for the frame, the length of time, but that saves something like 100 on my camera, 100 gig file, which is just absolutely massive, or 100 meg, sorry. Oh, it is gig. Sorry, yeah, 100 gig, which a lot of the software just can't open up. So you sort of start small, do 1,000 images, or 2,000 or something at the maximum.
There we go. Gerald Gretsch, astrologer man from Optic Central, $749 for an 8-inch Dobsonian. Everyone's going to go to Optic Central and ask for astrology man now.
Hey, Mike, if you share the image I've got up at the moment.
Yes, done. There we go.
Yeah, so that's just that's just showing the scope I'm using tonight to capture the images of the moon. And that's actually the one on the right. That's configured with the red camera at the back end. That's the 533 camera. So that's what I've been using tonight. It's on an ALTAS mount at the moment. It's configured as an ALTAS. The one on the left, I've just got an optical. I'm just running that optically, and the views through that are stunning of the moon. Yeah, even better than binoculars. But that's what I'm using tonight. And that blue stuff in the background, yeah, that's the sky.
Yeah, you'll have to explain that one to us, Kim.
Getting shade from South Australia. Typical.
Getting sky shamed.
Sky shade. How much longer till it comes out of shadow?
It depends on if you're in Victoria or not.
I'd say 25 minutes. So I'll put the I'll put that thing back on. So here we go. Yeah, so you can see the bright limb is sort of, it's going to move towards the bottom of the rabbit. Can everyone see? Oh, I had a PowerPoint slide on the rabbit, but anyway.
I can see the rabbit. Do you want to can you trace it out?
No, I'll put it out. I'll put my PowerPoint.
Yep.
All right. Bring my PowerPoint back up. I've got the rabbit there. Oh, sorry, I'm not sharing it, am I?
Not yet. Not yet. You'll have to share it first.
Let me just share it. Stop that one and share. Got it.
There you go.
Okay, so this is the.
That's its ears.
Okay, so that's the rabbit.
Yeah, here we go.
All right, can we see it?
Can you see the moon rabbit?
Hang on. Got to get out of this thing. Hold on. Here we go. And there it is there. Okay. Can you see the moon rabbit? I'll just jump between the two. This is a photo I took last night, by the way, before the eclipse, just to test out the system. And there it is there.
Now everyone will always see the moon rabbit.
The moon rabbit is actually a really big thing in East Asia, apparently. And apparently it's making something in that sort of rectangular area to the right of it. And what it's making sort of varies from country to country, like changes from China and Japan and Vietnam. But yeah, it's quite a big thing, the moon rabbit. So there so you might look that up.
I see it as a combination of between a slightly melted Easter chocolate rabbit and Donnie Darko.
Donnie Darko.
Oh yeah.
We're not going down the Donnie Darko path.
All right, and I think the other challenge tonight was have a crack at spotting Uranus. Maybe a naked eye observation of Uranus. Anyhow, we'll better get out of that. All right, so I'm going to get the moon back up while we.
We'll pop the moon back up. There we go.
Okay, here we go. I've got one version here. Oh, and it is getting brighter towards the bottom end.
It is starting to come out, isn't it?
I probably need to spin my camera around.
Where's my iPad? That's the wrong way, I'm sure. That one.
Christy, this is why we're streaming it, so that it's not all you see, that we're sharing the moon with everybody so that those who do have clouds can actually see the eclipse live.
So I'm about to lose it.
Are you?
No, it's all right. I'm just headed the wrong direction. Wow, we got a breeze out here now.
Now, is that Uranus up there? No, it wasn't, was it?
No. I'm just trying to center this because I didn't do an alignment earlier. That should be it. That'll do. Okay. Yeah, I'm just going to, all right, so there you have it. I'm going to step outside for a minute again.
That's all right. So does anybody else have any questions for us? We've gone through some lucky imaging, which you can use on the moon as well. Any questions, throw them at us. We'll see what we can do about answering them. Any questions, throw them at us. Do our best to bring these live streams to you guys. So thank you for your thanks, and thank you to everyone who's been donating stars as well. That's for sure. Oh, we've just lost one.
Lost two.
Go back to, there we go. Go back there. Why does the moon look like it have lines on it in the other photo? It depends which photo you're talking about. It just depends on. So if I go with,
The ejector lines.
yeah, so is that these lines here that we can see? Is that what we're talking about, Catherine? If you want to chuck another comment up, just let us know if that's the lines you're talking about. These you'll have to do your mouse on it, Lee.
Yep. I don't know if you can see the mouse actually.
I think we could. I could before, but yeah, okay. So those ones, so they're ejector lines. So, yeah. What's the best way to explain that one, Lee? I'm trying to. It's basically a meteorite.
Just when meteor impacts occur,
yeah.
and they throw out a lot of debris,
Yep.
and with no atmosphere on the moon, they throw them out hundreds and thousands of kilometres.
Yep. And we call them ejector lines. Here's one for the guys with your equipment. Just joined. Welcome, Danny. Just joined. What type of optic devices are you using? Lee, we'll start with you since you were just talking. So.
Yeah, sorry, I was just trying to get the ejector to look a bit sort of more prominent.
Yep. Can you jump to Anne-Marie's while you chat?
Yep. So I've got a Celestron Edge 8 HD scope and an ASSA 2600M mono camera on that main view I was showing a moment ago. But I've also got a DSLR side by side on the rig as well.
And Andy, what are you using?
I'm using a Skywatcher 150mm reflector. It's a people call 6-inch, and I've got a Canon 450D. So it's an pretty old camera. It's about 13 years old now, and it's a DSLR. And yeah, I've got a guide scope, but I thought I'd use this. Actually, I've got a picture. There we go. That's what it looks like now. That's a live view of my scope, and this little thing here, that's the moon. It's in night vision. That's why it looks a bit like that.
I can probably grab my security camera feed actually.
All right, I'll jump back over to yours and you can show yours, Lee, and then we'll ask Anne-Marie what she's using.
Yet. Hang on. Give me just a couple of moments. I've got to find what.
All right, you do that. Anne-Marie, this is Anne-Marie. That's not Anne-Marie's view. Anne-Marie doesn't have you. Anne-Marie, what's your equipment? What have you been using?
Oh, sorry, got cloud.
That's all right. But what equipment do you use?
With my color one, I've got a Skywatcher ED80 with the QHY 268C camera on it, and I think it's a 510mm focal length. And the other one is a reflector which is a 250mm or 10-inch reflector, a 1200 focal length, and it's running with the ZWO ASSA 1600 monochrome camera.
And Andy H, the other Andy, not Andy out west, Andy out not so west, but still a bit west. Where'd you go? Your view was good, Andy. Hey, there we go. I'll unmute you. There we go. I can't unmute him. Oh, we've lost him again. No.
Here you go. I'll show you the. Should say mine outside out the.
There we go. There's Lee in the car park in Burwood. That's already in Doncaster. All right, so I've got a couple more questions. Where are we? Oh, actually, just a quick one. Here we are. Maz, look, this is one of the reasons we stream is for people who can't get outside to actually see what we're streaming. It's part of the reason we do what we do. If it's cloudy, if people can't get somewhere. Maz, just so you know, we have a wheelchair accessible telescope at our dark sky site with wheelchair accessible pathways around the site, so you can get to and from the club rooms accommodation to that telescope. And that's part of the reason why we do these streams, and why we did that is so that people who have mobility issues can get around our site and join us under the dark skies. So if that's something you're able to do, shoot us an email, president@asv.org.au, and let us know if you'd like to come up, and we'll arrange for you to come up and have a look at the site and have a look through that particular telescope. And you know, if you enjoy, or if you're able to do what we're doing, and if you're enjoying it, you can become a member, and that's what that telescope is specifically for. What have we got? Bree, what would you recommend after a Dobson telescope? I went from a Dobsonian to a Meade 8-inch Schmidt Cassegrain, which you can get fairly cheaply for secondhand these days. And that one's a 2-star align. Some of them are 3-star aligns, Celestrons, things like that. And then I went to the Star Adventurer, which you've got a manually polar line and things like that. But that's the way I went. Lee, did you start in astro, or did you do visual first?
Oh, look, if we go back over 20 years ago, we tried visual with a scope that had a horrible... Oh, I nearly fell out of the van. Which had a horrible tripod. So it was quite difficult to use. But more recently, when we bought this scope, sort of tried for visual, and just sort of, it just wasn't quite as fulfilling, I think, compared to, for me at least, compared to being able to grab a whole lot of images and then be a little bit more artistic about what I was seeing. The whole, I suppose in a way, the whole, that adage, you know, take a photo, it lasts longer.
Yeah. So there's a couple of different, I guess, journeys of what we went. So I went from Dobsonian, and Lee had his journey. Everyone's a little bit different, but telescopes that polar align or 2-star align would be your next step, and then into polar, and then into, you know, that sort of equipment. Drew, thank you very much, Drew. The accessibility is one of the things that makes the ASV fantastic. It's one of the reasons why I support them. Accessibility to the night sky is a very important part of what we do and why we do what we do. Would be great for school children to experience this beautiful view. Michelle, we had a telescope that we lent to one of our members who was running a Cubs program tonight, and they spent the night looking at the lunar eclipse, but also Jupiter and Saturn as well. So yeah, we're very big on that as well. I don't know if we can answer this one. Does the direction of the lunar eclipse shadow that spans across the moon change for each eclipse, or moves the same each time for the same viewing location? It would be different, wouldn't it, depending upon where you are?
Well, the direction
Yep.
should be the same, but
There'd be slight variations, like we saw with the
Yeah.
star.
And going back to what Rod was saying about in terms of the actual location at the time of year, well, obviously, yeah, then it depends on we'll see a lunar eclipse as opposed to a partial lunar eclipse. A lunar eclipse is going to be almost the same every time. But I think partials is where you'll see it different, whether it's on the
there we go.
top side of the moon or the bottom side, for instance. And I can actually see some white coming through now at the bottom.
Right, so we have a really good question, and then we can each answer this. Andy, you can go first. What got you guys interested in this beautiful field?
Probably being a child and watching the moon landing when I was really young. I was only a kid, and just the space has just got me fascinated all the time, and it's just grown from there. But I've only got into imaging probably over the last 10 years, maybe not even that. But yeah, it just fascinates me, just walking out. And growing up in a city, I'd never really got to see the proper sky until I got older, and then I could actually, out here it's border one, so I see it every night, except for tonight because it's cloud. But yeah, but you just, you see, even though it's the same sky, you see it differently every night. It's amazing.
Lee, what got you into it?
Look, I've always just had a curious and scientific, I suppose, what do they call it, Wunderlust. I just love everything science-based. I mean, when it comes to science fiction, there's not a Star Trek I haven't seen, or a Star Wars, or anything else, along those lines. But there's something that one of my sisters reminds me of, going way, way back when we're talking probably, what is it, I'm 47 something now, so probably 44 odd years ago when I was 3, and we had these pine trees over the back of our property, and I think we were just in our swimming pool late at night, and I would have seen, maybe, for all I know, a helicopter going past the top of the trees, and my sisters convinced me it was aliens, so I ran inside so quick. I was absolutely, I won't say it, but horribly scared. But who knows? It could well have, piqued a curiosity all the way back then to go, I need to know what's out there.
And Marie, what about you? If she can unmute, you got to unmute.
Sorry. Back when I was a kid, I went on a school camp, and we were all sitting out on the balcony looking up at the sky, and obviously it was a meteor shower because we were counting all the hundreds of shooting stars that we saw in the sky that night. Little did I know that it was a meteor shower. But then that sort of just piqued my interest. The photography side started just purely from doing normal photography and then wanting to shoot at night. And then once I started that, then I started realizing that you could see so much more in the night sky with a camera. And so then I moved into telescopes. It was, just had to see what was out there.
I'm not sure if Kim's still with us. Are you still with us, Kim, or are you still off visually?
Yeah, I'm here.
What got you into astronomy, Kim?
Oh, it's a good question. It goes back a while. I think I just looked up in the night sky one day when I was a kid.
Stone Ages?
Probably around 6 or 7. Not quite. In the 60s, though, if you remember them, Mark, which I don't think you do.
I don't know if I will.
What did they say?
For the
If you
wrong
remember
reason.
the 60s, you were never there.
That's, yeah, for the wrong reason. He doesn't know. So, yeah, I think and then I got interested in science and was really disappointed when I went to high school and saw what was in the science books on astronomy. Like it was about 1 or 2 pages, if that. At high school, they had an astronomy night. I went along, had a look through a telescope, saw absolutely nothing. But it didn't put me off. I persisted because my interest was that strong. So eventually I hooked up with a friend who had a telescope, a real telescope, 8-inch Newtonian on an equatorial mount, if you remember those things. And that just opened up the whole world, right? And then I discovered this Astronomical Society of South Australia, and I learned more through them. Eventually, I ended up buying a couple of telescopes through high school, and then got something serious when I was at uni, and kept going. And no, it's something I've done for a long time. Yeah, as you said, in the dark ages, it's when there weren't streetlights.
It was actually the
Does
dark
that make
ages.
Now, I don't know if Andy Not So West is still with us, and if he wants to let us know what got him interested in astronomy. See if he can jump on.
I thought he answered that.
No, not Andy from Way Out West.
I can answer
Andy,
again.
Oh,
Andy from Not Quite Way Out West.
Oh,
He's
Not
with
Quite
us
Out
on the
West.
Stream, but I don't think he can unmute. Oh, here he goes.
I'm here.
You there? What got you into astronomy?
Hello. Oh. Yeah, I just love it.
You just love it?
Yeah, seriously. I'm here with a couple of neighbours and all that sort of thing, and we're just watching the moon. Pretty noisy and dusty and all that sort of thing, but yeah, I grew up in the country, and I remember seeing lots of stars. I've moved into the city 25 years ago. Don't see as many stars, but yeah, it blows my mind that you can take a picture of something that's 15 million light years away, and that could be there anymore. But yeah,
Very cool.
I'm always overwhelmed when it comes to this sort of thing. Neighbours are all sitting around watching me taking pictures of the moon. Yeah, just love it.
So for me, it was, well, I wasn't really into astronomy as a kid. I do remember sitting in the boot of the car when you're allowed to lay down in the boot of the car and you drove home from your grandparents back in the 80s. I don't know if that was legal or not. And I used to just look at the stars as we drove home late at night. But that was about it. But it wasn't until my son got heavily into astronomy. He's the reason that I'm an ASV member. That I started to get an interest in it, and I got an interest in visual observing, and I always said I would never go to the dark side, and now I'm on the dark side, which is imaging, which is astrophotography, but I still do visual as well. Do a lot of visual. I do as much visual as I do astrophotography, but that's it. I got hooked in it. I saw Saturn through the telescopes at the Melbourne Observatory. I swore someone had stuck a photo on the end of a picture of it on the end of the telescope, and I was just hooked. And have just the more and more I do it, the more I love it, the more I want to do it, the more I look outside in the afternoon to see if the skies are going to be clear. Constantly checking the weather patterns, you just get hooked. It is like a drug, really. You just get hooked on it. So there you go. There's our journeys into astronomy and what got us into astronomy. If you want to let us know why you love the sky, pop it in the chat and. Here we go. Neil. Among other things for me, it was my dad showing me Carl Sagan's Cosmos when I was about 10 years old. We have Cosmos on 16mm, don't we, Lee? On 16mm film.
16mm.
Yeah. The ASV's got a version of it. Here we go. Julie, being in Canada and not being able to see the moon at the moment. This is great. Thanks, guys. Julie, we're glad to help. There's a question for us on telescopes. What's thoughts on Mead's 14-inch f8 LX850 ACF telescope with star lock and tripod? Well, I got an 8-inch Mead. We call it the coffee grinder because every time it moves from object to object, you swear it's grinding coffee. But it does work really well. even though it does sound like it's grinding coffee. So personally, as someone who's used meads before, I'm a big fan of meads. That's for sure. And with a 14-inch, that thing's going to be bloody heavy. I tell you that now. I've used a 12-inch mead, and it's not easy lifting it as a 12-inch. The 14's going to be even heavier. With a scope like that, I personally would not go over a 10-inch, just from unless you're intending to mount it permanently. It just wouldn't be going there. Yeah, so if you're going to mount it permanently, great scope.
Hey, Mark.
Yes.
Can you hear me? The eclipse is actually, Totality has actually ended now. Ended about.
It has. We're coming out of it now, aren't we?
Yeah, you can see quite strong evidence for it on the screen and also outside if you look it up. If you go outside and look up, it's certainly coming to an end.
There we go. We did have a question. There's just tuned in. What stage are we looking at? So we're looking at exiting Totality at the moment. That's where we're at. And Bill Stant, the telescope gent. I'll never be a true astrophotographer. I will forever use phones as my camera because the challenge is fun.
I think photography is a challenge no matter what level you take it at. And
that's
so much
true.
stuff
That's true.
in the night sky.
I like the added extra challenge of using a phone.
Yeah, I can imagine that. At some point, there won't be much.
I've just got a text message. I'm in trouble because I didn't mention my best mate who got me heavily into astronomy once I joined the ASV, and that's our Deep Sky section director, Paul Gardner, whose favourite deep sky object.
I can't get to it from here.
You can't get to it? Paul's favourite object is Jewel Box. So anyone who comes to the star party this year, the Christmas barbecue, please go to our section director, Paul Gardner, and ask him to have a look at the Jewel Box cluster. It's his favourite. Here we go. Here's another one. Bonnie, the reason I love the stars and the moon is because my grandparents used to tell me that the stars were my family looking down on me and keeping me safe, and shooting stars with people crossing over. I've heard a lot of people have been told that story, and it's got them into astronomy. Not an uncommon story. I'm being called all kinds of swear words now on text message from Paul. Let's see what else we got. Oh, look at this. Here we go. For those with really good eyes, there's a Starlink satellite scheduled to come up behind us, southwest to northeast, skimming across the horizon for the next 15 minutes. So if you've got clear skies and you've had enough of looking at the moon, go and have a look at Starlink flying across the top.
Just a Starlink, or is it a Starlink train?
I don't know. David posted the comment, 10:43. David, you can let us know, is it just one or two or three, or is it an entire train? There we go. Stuart used to watch.
There was a train
with his father in the 80s.
Well, no, Kate, my wife Kate, also was fortunate enough to meet Carl Sagan when she went to. She took classes of his at Cornell University back in when was that? 1990 or 1990, 91?
That's a pretty cool story. Christy, we have covered this, but we'll cover it again. It depends really on what you're doing. Most people, we sort of say get a Dob because they're easy to push around the night sky, and depending on your budget, you can get the go-to scopes, the Celestrons and the like, which do 2-star alignments, and then you can basically plug in the object you want to look at, and it'll move to it. But the best thing to do is to go and speak to some people at a telescope shop, or join ASSA, Astronomical Society South Australia, or the Astronomical Society Victoria. Come along to one of our viewing nights, have a look at the telescopes that are there, really, would be the best recommendation. So what are we now? We're at 10:47, so we're definitely coming out. So we might actually, I think we might end the stream in about 15 minutes. and we will thank everybody for watching us tonight. We've had a lovely audience, a huge crowd. So thank you. Well, for you it's morning, Julie. So hope you've had a lovely morning. We've enjoyed bringing this stream to you. It's been great fun. We've had a lot of fun, that's for sure. As I mentioned earlier, we have for Australian residents anyway, we have a raffle for an 8-inch Dobsonian, which is going to be drawn on Christmas Eve. Sponsored by Optic Central. Thank you, Optic Central. We also have our Starbecue party on the 26th. As I said, just do a postal vote or vote early and then book your ticket to the Star Party because there's not many of them. And on the 18th of November, we have a public viewing night at Caulfield Racecourse Reserve. Tickets still available for that as well. Kim, do you have any events for the Astronomical Society of South Australia coming up in the next month?
We do. They are booked out though. We just had a big event on the weekend, Star Party, our spring Star Party, and we have another one coming up in a few weeks' time, and that's booked out solid. What else is coming up, Scott? Scott around Hawthorne Dune's booked out, isn't it, on the 25th?
You're all booked out.
We're for the year. Oh, one thing we do have is we do have Fred Watson coming down on the 7th of December to give a free public lecture at the University of Adelaide at our general meeting.
Will that be streamed as well?
Yeah, that'll be streamed. That'll be he'll be talking on the James Webb Space Telescope and the impact it's having on our understanding of the universe. So Fred is an excellent speaker and a friend of both ASSA and ASP, as we know.
There we go. So we might cross-post that one for you, Kim, so that our followers can see that as well.
Sounds great. And you can
Astronomer at large.
He is the astronomer at large. So Fred Watson is the number one astronomer in Australia. He is the government's astronomer.
Government advisor.
Government advisor for astronomy. In fact, I interviewed him on last Thursday night. He's a funny guy. Very, very funny guy.
I have a slide promoting the event, as I just happen
pop
to
it up.
handy.
Pop it up. Why not?
I'll pop it up.
While you're doing that, we did have a question on how do you enter the raffle. You go to the website asv.org.au, and on the front page of our website, in fact, while Kim's doing that, I might try and share that screen just to show everybody. Nobody wants to see us. Everybody wants to see other more important stuff. Share screen. Here we go. So there we go. There's a Christmas raffle on the front of the page. We have a raffle link that you just click on to go and book your ticket. You must be an Australian resident. Well, there's a Lunar Eclipse. So we have a public talk tomorrow night at Mueller Hall, which will be live streamed on YouTube, Twitch, and Facebook, or in person. That one's finished. There we go. The public stargazing night, $10 a person, children under 12 free. That's at Caulfield Racecourse Reserve. And the Christmas barbecue, rocking around telescopes. And Santa's going to be there. Tickets are limited. General public tickets available for that. As you can see here, solar viewing, radio astronomy, wine tastings, Lions Club will have a barbecue. You can buy some food up. We have site tours. We have an astro trivia quiz, a bingo, raffle draw for the door prize, which is a tabletop telescope, a tour of the night sky, what's up in the sky tonight, and then observing. So it's just some of the things we're having at our Christmas Star Party. Kim, have you got yours ready? There we go.
Yeah, it's ready. Pop it up, Mark.
I have.
All right. Cool. So there you have it. So this is Webb's New Window on the Universe by Fred Watson, Professor Fred Watson, Australia's astronomer at large. So he'll be talking on the 7th of December, 8 p.m. our time. You can see the links down there. We'll live stream on Facebook and YouTube, but we'll do this cross-posting, Mark. So
yeah, we'll do a cross-posting that way. Yeah, so our Facebook followers will also get, and YouTube will also get the stream, so everyone will be able to see it.
And if you attend in person, you get going to a raffle to win a book. You get to win a book, Astronomica, I think.
What was your door prize?
Astronomica,
book, isn't it?
the book.
Ah, the book.
Which I think Fred had a hand in.
So limited edition. I don't know who you are or where you live, but if you do buy it, I will come and help you set it up as long as you pay for flights and accommodation if it's overseas. So thank you, everybody, for joining us tonight. It's been great fun. We've lost Anne-Marie in the process. We hope you enjoyed our Lunar Eclipse live stream. It's been great fun bringing it to you. Pity Melbourne's weather couldn't play ball the whole time. It played ball for some of it, but that's why we do these streams. And thank you to the Astronomical Society of South Australia for stepping in and giving us a hand with this stream and joining us on the journey with this. And we will see you on our next live stream, which for ASV viewers is tomorrow night at the Astro Talk, where we have astrophysicist Steffi Bernard talking about what Fred Watson's talking about, James Webb Space Telescope, but also Hubble and Spitzer and the differences in what each of those telescopes produce. And she's going to be focusing on the early galaxy formations and imaging early galaxies with that equipment. So thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.
See you later.